Hello, hello, welcome. It is that time for the late night spooky stories live stream. The original spooky stories live stream. Come on in and get settled in, tap the screen, send some hearts, and let's get some people in here. We'll get some ghost stories going, hopefully. How's everybody doing tonight? How is everybody? Thank you for the hearts. Everybody tap the screen and send some likes. More likes means more people, means more ghost stories. So, what is that? I don't know what that was. Somebody said, I don't know who you were. Sorry, I declined it because I don't know what that is. Guest box is open. If you all have any paranormal spooky stories, feel free to hop in the guest box. If you want to just come up and talk paranormal spooky stuff in general, feel free to come up in the guest box. Oh, thank you. What is your name? Veritas? I can't see your whole name. Yeah. But thank you. How is everybody tonight? Did you guys have a good weekend? Yes, let's hear some good ghost stories. How come we never see bee ghosts or deer ghosts or bird ghosts? I don't know. I have no idea. Guest box is open. Feel free to hop in the box, come on up, tell a story. Doesn't have to be paranormal. It can be just spooky in general. We also do cryptid, extraterrestrial. We've been looking for a Loch Ness Monster story here. We haven't got one yet. Bigfoot stories are always welcome. Tap the screen. Send some hearts, guys. Appreciate it. Interact with this live. Leave a comment, share, whatever you got to do. Just interact with it and get some people in here. I think I have seen the spirit of a dog or the essence of a pet a time or two. James, I don't know. In regard to what? There are several things with that name. Same spot in the house. Been visited in your sleep. Oh, interesting, Jacob. Feel free to come up in the guest box and share your paranormal story if you like. We would definitely like to hear it. Make sure it's open. I'm pretty sure it's open. Yeah. You hear noises in the woods. Sounds like humans. Oh, interesting. Interesting. The woods are spooky. That's for sure. Especially at night. You saw a UFO. Come up and tell us about it. We need some good stories in here tonight, guys. Somebody better hop in the box. Thank you for the follow, James. Harry, thank you for the likes. Good to see you here, Harry. How is your paranormal stuff going, Harry? Do you have any new developments? Any spooky stuff? Yeah, Ken, I've been a little bit MIA because I've been waiting for TikTok to sort out some technical difficulties, and unfortunately, finally now it's fixed. So I've been gone for a little bit, but we're going to get back on the horse and try to get some live streams a few times a week, get some stuff going. I'm going to try this week to go live at some different times to see if it kind of makes a difference. Like, I don't know, because it is a little late, I know, for a lot of people. So I'm going to try to do some sorted times this week. Guest box is open, folks. Feel free to jump in, come up, share your paranormal story. It doesn't have to be paranormal. It can actually just be something spooky, something that you find terrifying. Anything at all that is frightening and creepy. Kind of like if you're familiar with Reddit's Let's Not Meet. I would actually like to have some stories like that in here. I think those are pretty fun. I have a few myself, actually. A little dull, just a few shadows. Well, I guess really that there's nothing wrong with that because ghosts certainly can get annoying. Paranormal activity can get old really fast, especially if you have to live with it. So, sore throat. Yeah. Well, I hope you get to feeling better. If you do get to feeling better, you can come up and tell us, where did that UFO person go? I'd love to hear a good UFO story tonight. Hot dog, we got Harry. Hey.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, here, I guess it'd be a couple weeks ago. I went outside to get a bag of wood pellets. We got a wood pellet stove to heat with. But anyway, I stepped outside, and as soon as I opened the door, I got this feeling, like I was being watched. As soon as I walked, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, but it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I just felt just almost like a fight or flight feeling. When you get them. And I don't know what it was. There was nothing there. I couldn't see anything. There was snow on the ground, so I could see if there was anything out there. So I don't know. It spooked me. That's the only thing I've had recently happen. It was just really, really
Oh,
strange.
yeah. Yeah, I know that feeling you're talking about. The feeling where you just know, like your gut just tells you like there's
Yeah.
something, but you don't know where or what. Yeah, that's a spooky feeling. I hate that feeling.
As soon as I opened the door and stepped outside, it just hit me. I was like, "Oh, there's something here." But I never saw anything, never heard anything. I just had that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Do you think
Uh,
it could possibly be
I
something like from the woods, or do you think that it was associated with your paranormal activity, or maybe it was Bigfoot?
oh, I know there is. It's possible, but there's has been a cougar sighted out around our area, and I've heard it before. It was out in the field. I couldn't see it, but I could hear it was like it was calling for its kittens almost is what it sounded like. But
Mm,
I've had that feeling before going out in the morning, start up my truck, and I heard that. It just makes you very, very leery. I don't know how to word it, but
yeah.
you shouldn't be there.
Yeah, exactly. There's actually a book about that. It's not paranormal related, but it's called The Gift of Fear.
Yeah,
And it talks about how you should trust that gut feeling when you feel that, like you're being watched or you're being followed or, whatever the case may be. But it's interesting how that can also apply to the paranormal. So,
yeah.
um, spooky.
But other than that, that's about it.
Yeah. Well, that's good, I guess. At least it's calm and you don't have to deal with too much crazy activity.
Yeah, for now, we'll see what happens later. But for now,
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming up and letting us know. Do you want to hang around and co-pilot or do you want to hop down or
I'll stay on if you want me to.
Yeah, stay on as long as you want to. We had somebody in the box, but I think they dropped. Box
Okay.
is open, everybody. If you have a paranormal story. Oh, we got another person. Oh, right. Hang on here. All right. We got Kayla. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi. So there was one time I was at my great aunt's house and I walked out on the porch and something caught my eye at the corner of their shed and it looked like a tall man. And but it was completely totally black and bushy looking or hairy looking, I guess I should say. And it just turned around, went behind the building, and I never seen it again. So I don't know if when I was a kid, it may have been a figment of my imagination, or if it's something, or if I really saw like a booger, I guess.
Definitely a Bigfoot.
Well, and it wasn't until later years like I started learning about like shadow people, and I've always wondered if that's what I saw. You
Mm,
know, so,
yeah.
but like I said, that's one of my scariest moments. The others haven't been scary. My After that same aunt passed away, we moved into her house and we would smell like toast, like someone making toast, which was one of her favorite breakfast meals. Just toast and butter or toast and jam, and then we'd smell fresh flowers. And my mom didn't keep fresh flowers, so
Hmm.
not that one has probably been like the scariest. The others haven't really been that scary. More comforting than
Hmm.
scary, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And it could have been a shadow person because kids tend to see shadow people,
Yeah.
it seems like. And yeah, very well could have been. I'd like to think it was Bigfoot because I love Bigfoot. I'm a Bigfoot big fan.
He's the world champion at hide and seek.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for coming up and sharing that with us. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, it's just this is my first time ever coming in here, and I've really enjoyed it so far. So,
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm glad you found us and hopefully you stick around.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
How do I, how
Let's
do I
see.
drop?
I got you. What do you think about it, Harry? Was it a shadow person or a Bigfoot?
Well, she said it was kind of shaggy or hairy, so very could be
Yeah,
Bigfoot.
I'm always hoping for Bigfoot, of course.
I've never seen one,
We,
but
yeah,
I've heard a lot of stuff out in the woods that you don't know what it could be. So
yeah. Hello and welcome.
Hello. Um, we have had some ongoing paranormal activity for a very long time.
Hmm.
And not too long ago, about 3 years ago, I actually asked some investigators to come out and check out stuff that was happening on our property. And I don't post anything online, on TikTok or anything, except for one experience because some of the things are so traumatizing that I don't want people like seeing the videos and then going, trying to pick them apart because we really can't understand what's going on. And so I sent some videos to some experts and they literally would not come to our property. And that was kind of a very alarming thought that someone who investigates doesn't even want to come to our property to see what was going on. But tonight we had an experience that was really strange. So we have these hoop buildings on our property that we store hay in. And over the top of those hoop buildings, we apply a tarp. It's a hay tarp and it covers the entire building and it keeps it from getting any, moisture inside of the hay bales. And we're standing outside and it's quiet, there's no wind, and only one tarp is making noise. So we thought maybe a raccoon or something had gotten near the tarps and was rattling them. And the closer that me and my son got to the tarp around 10 o'clock, we began to see the tarp lifting all by itself, completely above this hoop building. And it was so terrifying that literally we just packed up what we were working on, closed our garage, and went into our home. Figured we'd just better wait it out through the night and go see what's going on. But the entire tarp lifted up by itself and was moving back and forth. The other buildings, not a single piece of tarp moved. And these type of events can be very traumatic because you don't know what you're seeing. You don't understand what's happening. But at one point, I thought maybe a neighbor kid or something was messing with it, because it didn't occur to me what was really happening. So the closer we got and we could see under the tarp as it was moving, there was no one in there. Just hay bales. No animals, no people. And it's frustrating because you're trying to explain to yourself, okay, this is supposed to be, you know, windy or whatever, and there's nothing out there. And you're seeing these unusual things happen, especially on a farm. I mean, I think it's pretty much, you see more activity, I believe, out in rural areas. But we're actually on top of a Native American burial ground where we're located. So our entire community is built on top of this burial ground. And sometimes I feel like some of the activity is kind of retribution for having used an area that may not have been meant to be used. So it was very alarming tonight. We don't usually see that dramatic of movement. But it tends to move things around. It's very disturbing and it's upsetting to the animals. But for us, we've learned to kind of just deal with it and move around it. So have you had any experiences that are similar to that? We're just, you know, unexplained, moving, but not small things. We're talking about very incredibly large things. And it's very unnerving.
Yeah, no, I've never seen anything as big as a tarp move. One time I saw like a stack of boxes get turned over, which was, you know, pretty intense. But I haven't seen a lot of like paranormal activity interact with physical objects. So that's definitely a new one on me.
We've
What
had
about you,
pictures
Harry?
fly
What do
off
you
the
think?
wall. We've had pictures fly off the wall before. They were hung good, so I don't know. You know,
We had that experience as a child. That was terrifying. A picture flying off of a wall. And I mean, it was really eye-opening to how they can manipulate physical things. But tonight was really strange because it was as if it was moving throughout the entire tarp. It was very strange. And we've seen a lot of things happen over the years, you know, moving small stuff and what have you, or even upsetting the animals and stuff. But we tried to get a couple of people who claim to be investigators to come out and look, and they spent 15 minutes here and they were gone. I mean, they were not intending to stay. And we thought they were supposed to be investigators and they would kind of question what was really happening. And they said what they felt made them so uncomfortable that they had to get out. And we've had neighbors move in and out of houses around us who've had the same thing on their properties. And it was so disturbing to the people who bought the houses, they just move as quickly as possible. So we've had high turnover in land purchases right around our area. And we've had neighbors who've documented stuff and put it on their own TikToks, but for us, we keep it pretty private. But I saw you guys' live tonight, and I thought I'd ask if anybody else has had experiences with really like large stuff, because now it's beginning to make me worry that there's something worse here than I originally thought. I do video all this stuff, but like I said, I don't publish it for other people because whatever it is, it seems to draw off of attention, and I'm trying not to give it attention, because the more you pay attention to it, the more it seems to want to do stuff. So the less you pay attention to it, it seems it calms down some, and our life gets almost normal for a while. So I don't know if you guys, you know, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I know I know there are a lot of people out there that have had experiences. I'm just looking for people that have had, some real experiences. I mean, because there's a lot of turmoil that seems to flow through this particular area where we're at. We're in Illinois, by the way.
Yeah, I was a ghost hunter for more than a decade. I've seen a lot of stuff that I was never able to comprehend or explain as a skeptic. But I've never seen, like physical objects that size move, obviously, like I said. But if you have, like, if I also do video and photo analysis, so if you have anything that you want someone else to take a look at, feel free to contact me. Send me a message on here, and I'll send you my email. If you just want like another set of eyes on it or whatever.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I mean, I've got tons of videos and I've got tons of pictures that are unexplainable stuff. And like I said, I thought that the couple that came out seemed like they really wanted to kind of help us out and figure out what it was. But when they got here, they were so nervous. They arrived and they were gone at dark because whatever it was that they felt out back, it
Mhm.
just, she said it unnerved her to the degree she couldn't stand on the property.
Huh.
Hmm.
Well, that's really peculiar. You know, I hate that they did that. That's
Well,
normally not how, paranormal investigators handle those types of situations, or they shouldn't anyway.
honest with you, I mean, the further you walk into the property and the further you get back around the trees and stuff, it does have a strange feel to it. So we've
Mhm.
pretty much put everything we have on the property to the front so we don't have to engage in going back that far. So, we've had neighbors and other people that, they want to hunt or go back in there and they won't stay back there. You have to tell them, like, they have no idea what's going on and they'll go back in that area and they'll come out feeling very uncomfortable, like they're being watched and they don't know why. Um, but it's a very strange spot and people have found different things that were buried, like when they were trying to dig up for utilities and stuff. They found strange things that were buried in the ground. So I don't know what it is, but it does give a very weird aura even to just people that have never even been to the property. And you can be up
Yeah.
in the front by our home and stuff and feel perfectly safe and everything's fine, but then little things will still happen. But it's when you go to the back half, I mean, it's like something is in there. And I'm not sure what it is,
Mhm.
and we can't really put a description to it because it doesn't actually take like a shape. It just, moves around in whatever area it can. And when it started moving the tarp on the hoop building, it was lifting it up and it was pulling it out. And you could actually see the whole tarp moving and flowing. And you would think the wind was blowing, but not a single thing on the property was moving but that one tarp. And when it lifted up enough that we could see there was no human being underneath of there, that was time to go in. We need to go. That was very
Yeah.
strange
That's when you
tonight.
tried to go through the tarp.
Yeah, my son said something tried to go through the tarp. It was very strange.
Pushing it.
It looked like something was pushing it, but there was nothing in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, feel free to contact me. Send me a message on here, and maybe help you try to make some sense of it. If I would say if you're in Kentucky and you need an investigation, I would come do it. But you said you're in Illinois, so I don't know.
Yeah, we're a
But
little drive
it's
away from you.
yeah.
I know the experiences that a lot of people have all vary, and when we were younger, we had experiences when we lived in Indiana. And some of the things that we saw were pretty incredible even then. And some, back then in the 70s, it was more considered, instead of supernatural, it was more spiritual, as what people considered it because they were too scared to say it was supernatural. But it just feels like it's intensified since we've moved over here.
Hmm.
And it's really strange. I mean, we've seen a lot of things happen over the years. Chairs move, rocking chairs move. But like I said, I don't put it up for public post because I don't want a lot of people like looking at it and, trying to tear it apart and stuff. But we've
Yeah.
done like just to figure out like what is actually here, what does it actually want to do. And I have a very strange video I did post because I just felt like, I'll post this particular one, but there was a cookie literally sitting on top of my cell phone one night, and it just moved on its own across the top of my cell phone and fell off the top of a mini fridge. And I had, on the same night, my son was watching my phone, and it fell off of the mini fridge and onto the carpet and shattered my phone on the carpet. Yeah, I had to call and tell AT&T my phone shattered on a carpet. There's no concrete underneath of it because they asked me all these questions. It fell onto a carpet so hard that it literally shattered the phone glass. I was stunned. But we've had some strange experiences.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And
Wow.
my son, he's seen some strange things too, like a garbage bag was laying over and it just sat up. And he's 15. The garbage bag just sat up. And that took me all night long to get him calmed down enough to go, to go to bed or anything, because it moved and it just stood up. Can't explain it. Have no idea what that was. But tonight with the tarp was just too much. It was overwhelming.
Yeah. Do you have any like security cameras that kind of maybe catch stuff on that side of your property?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We put up 16 of them. I put up a lot because I started getting freaked out. I need enough as human beings walking around doing stuff. Because if it is, we needed to catch them, if there's trespassers or property damagers or whatever. But it turns out that in a lot of cases there was nobody. Now, we've had people trespass because they're curious. Well, they hear a story about, a ghost or something, and they're going to show up. Okay, so they're going to be, wanting to know. But not it, and they're not doing any of this stuff that's actually happening on the property. And we've had quite a few witnesses to it too. But one night we had a camera that actually caught one of the tires that was sitting next to a truck. It was just leaning up against the truck. He had just changed the tire and leaned it up there. And it stood up on its own and started rolling. And that was very disturbing because it just rolled on its own, went about 10 feet away and laid over. And there was no physical reason. We used to have cats outside, outdoor cats, 3 of them. And we ended up bringing them all in because we thought somebody was bothering the cats, or maybe a coyote or something was disturbing them, and they'd start hollering for us. And I was watching the camera, and there was nothing out there, and they were running in circles. And I was like, something's wrong. So I go outside and I grab the cats, I bring them in. And after I brought the third, there was 3 of them. After I brought the third one in, I shut the door. And I could feel something literally touch my shoulder. And I was like, oh, well, now I know why the cats are running, because they don't want to be touched. But I felt something literally like touch my shoulder. We don't get a lot of physical contact with it. We don't know what it is, but I'm grateful for that. But once in a while, we've had a member of the family or someone come over and get shoved. And on our closed circuit TV, you could actually see my son got shoved off the back porch steps. You could actually see like something pushing onto his shirt and literally shoving him off the porch. And he just went straight forward down the steps and onto the ground. And got up, and he looked right at me, and he said, I literally got shoved off the porch. It's very scary.
Wow.
Yeah, but the further back you go on the property, the worse the disturbances. And they usually happen at night. Occasionally we'll have them happen during the day. Not with the frequency that we have at night, but night is when all the activity begins. And you don't see a bunch of figures and stuff. I hear a lot of, stories about seeing, figures and things. But we've actually taken photographs where there is no one standing there. And then when you take the photograph, you'll actually see the shape of someone standing there. But you won't see it to the visible eye. But you'll see it in the photo. It's really strange stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, some of this actually kind of sounds a little bit like poltergeist activity as well. Um, some of the more modern stuff that you're talking about. But yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. It's a lot.
when
It's a
when you're
lot. Wow.
when you're looking at the camera, so you can watch stuff travel across the yard with no explanation as to how it got there. Like you can see it come into the camera frame and go across the
Hmm.
camera and then out of its visual. And one night we were outside and we heard a noise. We didn't recognize the sound, so of course we got curious. And so we moved closer out to where my horses were, and they were lined up at the fence looking, same way we were looking. And you could hear the strangest sound, and there's no way to identify it. And it wasn't that far from us, but we never could find anything out there, just a strange sound. So, I guess you call it disembodied sound, just like you have disembodied voices. Sometimes you'll hear laughter. It's kind of a creepy laughter. And we've had random people come to our house just to hang out, and they'll sit and we'll be having a bonfire or something and hanging out. And like I said, we stay up close to our house now, and they would hear something and go, I could have swore I saw somebody, over there, and they asked something, and then we don't respond. And we wait a little bit longer, and they're like, I could have swore I just heard somebody say something. And there's nobody there. And I've just, it's escalated more here recently. And I used to not talk about it because I thought, well, if I didn't talk about it, then it's not coming back. But the truth is, they don't go away. But I try not to give it too much attention because I notice if I pay too close of attention to what they're doing, and I've trained my son the same way, if you pay attention to them, they get worse.
Yeah, it's
Because
true. It really is true.
they, for some reason, want to actively seek you out. And so we try to keep all the animals in at night, horses, everything, lock all the doors, so that nothing's outside to disturb it. Because we don't really understand what the heck it is. I can't truly say that I have figured that out. And I agree with you on the poltergeist possibility, but I know there's a lot of things that kind of take place around our area. We've got a church that somebody used to say was an occult. It was the church that had 3 lighted crosses and they're upside down. And we've had a lot of strange lore in our area about things that have happened over the decades, going back even a century really. But
Hmm.
it seems like whatever it is, there's lots of people who have complaints about activity happening on their properties. And one young lady, she became a victim of one of these things because it actually started throwing stuff at her. And the sheer terror that she had on her property, I mean, it was real. She was terrified. And she had come down here and got me and said, come to my house, you've got to see this. I don't understand what this is, but she was out in her garden and it just started throwing stuff. And next thing I know, stuff's just tossed here and there in front of my eyes. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So we tried to rationalize it. Was there animals around or, anything that was moving objects, knocking them off of the shelves or something that she had in her garage. We never did find any traces of anything in the garage or around her garden that would actually move all those items. And I know eventually she gave up and left. She moved, sold the house. And the next people that moved in because of the excitement of having, some paranormal activity. And seems like they've had nothing but problems since the day they moved in. Nothing seems to work right or go right in that property, and they're frustrated. I know they're about ready to sell too. I'm
Yeah.
about ready to sell, and I don't know how we sell a place that we can say, hey, guess what? Everything around here walks and moves and talks and breathes on its own, and it's not us. How do you
Yeah.
do that, with a good conscience? My fiance wants to knock down the house and sell the land, and then his thought is maybe, it wants part of the property or something, just sell it to somebody that's just gonna buy it to add it on to another property or whatever. But
Yeah.
we've had some strange activity. It's very scary.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, Harry, were you going to say something?
No, I was just moving around.
Okay. Yeah, well, feel free though to contact me, in a message, and I can try to help you out as much as possible. There's some things, just some tricks and tips maybe for figuring out what's going on around there. But yeah, I would say that would probably be my course of action, is to just leave. I mean, if it's that bad, I would probably leave. So, but that sucks, it sucks to have to like give up your home because of stuff like that. So,
Well,
I don't know.
I've seen a lot of people that have talked about their experiences online, and said, I've had this or that happen or whatever over time. But ours, I've never really felt terror in my life. And this is really, I mean, you feel terror. It strikes a really deep chord inside, because it's not like I can laugh it off. I can't. It's changing everything that we do, how we do our day to day and stuff. And the strange thing about it is that it's escalated creepily over time. So it didn't just start, it started out very small, little things here and there, nothing really major, and then it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then tonight, when it started moving that tarp, and it started, getting things going a little bit more, and we're looking at all the other buildings and not a single thing is moving, and there's no wind. You kind of go, okay, there's something a little bit more awry than usual, and it seems to be more interested in moving. And we try to stay as far away from it as possible and still be observant, because the likelihood of, if it was a wild animal, you don't want to get, too close to it, because could, excuse me, potentially harm you. But we saw underneath that tarp, and there's nothing physically in the building, and it's packed with hay, and there's nothing under there moving it. It was very disturbing. So it's kind of given us pause to, rethink what we're doing. And, so I will send you some videos. I can do that, because I can guarantee you it's very alarming. And when people review it, I tried to get a hold of the people that were dealing with the house in Indianapolis. They finally destroyed the house that had all the activity inside the home. I'm sure you heard about it, but they had like cops and everybody else who actually saw the activity that was happening there. And it became so destructive, the family had to leave. They didn't have a choice. And so I tried to talk to a couple people attached to that incident, and they were investigating stuff that was going on over there. And like I said, when they came over here, they were like, yeah, I don't feel good about this. Because the further you get back out there, the more strange it feels. And we've got farmers who farm behind us, and they will farm, as late as they have to. But there's not one single farmer that you could convince to park his tractor or his truck anywhere near them trees. They will not do it. There is something out there, and both of them have made comments about feeling uncomfortable when they get to those trees. It's just a very strange feeling out in that area.
I found clothes by those trees that were in the dirt.
Yeah, my son was just mentioning that he found clothing out by those trees. And the reason that we say that, the reason that he brings that up, is because there is nobody ever back there. The cameras never show a physical human being, but clothing has made its way out there. Not that we own, but just clothes in general.
And
from
the trees
different.
split 2 cornfields apart.
Yeah, and the trees divide 2 cornfields. And
it's not even that wide. It's only
right, it's
2.
not even that wide, but there's clothing ends up out there, and none of our neighbors can explain it. And on the cameras, you never see anybody physically carrying anything out to the trees. But then
And it takes a while to get over there.
You'll walk back there, and there's like random clothing just sitting out there.
And what's more, you can see the footprints.
Yeah, and you can see weird footprints, but there's nobody out there. You can see on the camera that there's no physical person out there. But you can go
what kind of footprints are we talking? Do they look human or do they look animal?
There's two types of footprints that pop up. One looks like a very large animal, but you would match it up with something like a bear or something. But it has big, long claws. The other one looks like a boot. But the strange thing is, it's not a tread like, boots that you would get from the store. It doesn't look like a natural tread. The reason I say that is because I own a Western store. And so it's not a tread I've ever seen before. And it looks really old. And the boots are pretty big. But you can look at the cameras and there's nothing there. You will not see a human being go back to those trees. And we have neighbors on the other side, and they've never seen a human being in those trees. Everybody's got cameras now because it wakes you up. Like, it makes you realize, like, I got to know what's going on. And it's really strange. But there's footprints back there, and you'll see like 10 steps, and then they disappear. And they go nowhere. They don't come back. They don't go anywhere else.
Tell me about how the garage was before there was lighting.
Yeah, my son said before we redid our garage, it was like you walk in there and you almost felt like the darkness would absorb you. It was a very strange feeling. It's almost like we did an eviction when we remodeled our garage, we put a new roof on it, redid the whole interior. It was almost like we evicted whatever it was from the garage because the dark feeling went away. And it wasn't like you walked in there and your brain just said, I feel dark in here, and so it feels uncomfortable. I mean, it was like a presence, like you felt something physically was inside of the garage. But
it
then,
was kind of depression at the same.
Yeah, it was like depressing. He said it did. It felt like It felt like it was like pushing on you, emotionally. Like it just felt like toxic.
And it was watching you.
Yeah, and it felt like you were being watched. And then when we redid we had gutted the garage, and we started all over, and we redid the entire garage. It's almost like you could go in there, it's like you could have a party and feel comfortable. It's so strange, the difference. And we're trying to do each building, because we were hoping if we did that and we remodeled, maybe it'd just go away. But just, we've redone those hoop buildings, and it's out there tonight. So the only reason I'm on TikTok right now, we were actually outside working on the property building, and then I saw that tarp lifting, and what's weird is it only lifted on one side. It didn't lift on, it only lifted on one side and above the building. So that's when and there was no wind, no nothing. I mean, we looked for every plausible explanation before we came in the house.
Yeah, that's pretty terrifying. Definitely a pretty unique situation to what I'm used to hearing from, clients with haunted houses and haunted properties. So, wow. But yeah, feel free to get a hold of me and, try to help you out a little bit if possible. And Harry, were you going to say something?
I just said, yeah, it's definitely freaky. It did, I walked into areas where you felt just heaviness. You know what I'm saying? Is that what you're talking about when you feel it's dark, is really heavy and dense?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it feels like you feel like you're weighed down, like you don't even want to be there.
Yeah.
Like when you're there, it almost feels kind of depressing. And you don't feel good. I mean, it leaves like this really bizarre feeling inside your mind, like you're not afraid to be in the building because it's a building, but there's this feeling that it gives to you and it doesn't want to leave, and it just feels, to me, it's dark. It just feels damaging. It doesn't feel good.
Now we're going out back to the cornfield behind the horse pasture. I feel like you have to make some you have to act tough and bigger and almost act crazy so it scares it away.
Yeah, my son does have a point. He was just saying, and this is for anybody, it really doesn't matter who it is, but anybody that goes to the back half behind our pasture, once you pass the horse pasture at night and you approach the cornfield and you're getting close up to where the trees are, you almost feel like you have to enlarge yourself
And
to
act crazy just like it.
yeah, to like chase it away from you. It's like this really ominous feeling when you get back there. And there's nothing back there, and you can't see anything, but you could take a picture and there's something there. And that's the strange part about it. But that feeling you're talking about, it is a very terrible feeling.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it almost kind of sounds like a cryptid experience rather than like a paranormal entity of some kind. Are you familiar with the stories about Dogman by any chance?
Not really. I mean, I've kind of heard about it a little bit, but for ours, because of the strange activity that we experience, I do feel it's more like along the lines of paranormal and demonic cross, because we've had some strange things. We've even had, like, I don't know, I hate to even say it because I feel like it almost will happen again if I say it. We had a building that was empty, there's nothing in it, and it all filled up with flies. And we never see anything like it. We called Terminex and had them come spray the building, and there was nothing in it that would cause you to have flies. And we literally had to have them spray the entire building. And even the guy from Terminex was like, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. And he even mentioned the same thing. He's like, I don't know if you believe in like all that weird stuff, but it's kind of demonic because there isn't anything in here that would draw these in. And I don't know. I kind of go back to that whole thing with the spiritual side of it, being we're on top of a burial ground all throughout this area, and there's a lot of bad mojo with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of bad history and stuff like that, I think, can kind of create the types of feelings that you're talking about. But well, I really appreciate you coming up here and sharing all that with us. That's pretty heavy stuff. I can't imagine dealing with something like that myself. But yeah, someone said you need a shaman.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you knew any Native Americans that could come out and maybe they could help you out, like a medicine man or a shaman like that.
Well, I had been talking to a couple of people over the years about that idea, and so what they were saying was because there was like a war that was fought over this land before it even became a cemetery for the Native Americans, and during that war there was a lot of bloodshed, and so he was saying you would have to get the specific tribe to agree to have someone come out. And that was really amazing when he said that. But we tried to contact several people from, the tribe that used to reside here, which was the Kickapoo and the Kinnicot. And the Kickapoo they're up in arms because they wanted to try and get the land back from this area. So none of them would send, somebody as a representative out. The Kinnicot, there are very few of them left, and they have moved, quite a distance out west. And so they referred us to someone in the Sioux Nation, and he was like, we don't travel that far. Illinois is quite a distance for, something like that. We did have a local priest that came out, and so he did some blessings, and his words exactly were this, okay, when the priest came out, and he's a really nice man. He said, sometimes it's just better off to get out than to stay in. And that was, pretty much just a direct approach to, this is going to be a lengthy process, and you're going to have a lot of difficulties. And so we've tried to find different people that would come out and bless. We've used sage. I've tried a lot of different practices. But it seems like, because I was told, because it moves from location to location around the property, and oftentimes moves to other properties because other people have had experiences that they're actually scared to talk about a lot of times, and they do what I do, try to keep it out of the public eye. And the only reason I'm talking tonight is because I think I just really got spooked by that tarp. It just really was, it was so unnatural looking too, the way it was moving. And that really unnerved me tonight more than it usually would. And so I feel like if there's someone out there that can help us, that it's gonna be someone who's gonna have to really know what this thing is to begin with, because we really don't know what it is. It could be a combination of things.
Yeah, it definitely could. I think let's see. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I'd actually like to talk to you about regarding this, but like I said, I appreciate you coming up. I've got somebody waiting. They've been waiting for quite a
Okay,
while, so I'm gonna try to get
that's
to
fine.
them. But definitely send me a message after,
I will.
if you feel comfortable.
I will. I'd like to
Alrighty.
see what your opinion is, because, just take a look. I'd send you some videos, and if you don't mind, just keeping them private. But
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
more than happy to show you what's going on, because if someone else can go, hey, whoa, wait a minute, then I don't feel like I'm alone anymore. And,
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
I'm trying to solve a problem that's real, and it's very scary, and it took us a while to calm down when we came in. So, yeah, I don't
Hmm.
know how to hang up on the lives. I'm just learning,
I
so you can
gotcha.
boot me.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much again. I appreciate it, and have a good night.
You too.
All right. Wow, there's so much to talk about there. I don't even know where to begin. I'm definitely
Well,
looking forward to seeing that footage though. Um, are you good to hang out for a little while, Harry, or do you need to go or
yeah, I'm
anything?
not going nowhere. If you don't mind me being
Alrighty.
here, I'm here.
Yeah, if at any point you need to drop or whatever, it's perfectly fine. I'm gonna bring in
Okay.
the next guest. He's been waiting
Oh,
for a while.
yeah, no
If he's
problem.
still, yeah. Ken said trail cams. I would definitely get a trail cam for sure. Hello
Yeah.
and welcome.
Hello, hello. How you guys doing tonight?
Good. How you doing?
Good. How are
Pretty
you?
good. Just gotta tell a little bit of stories that I've dealt with throughout my life. Actually, uh, I had one that was crazy recently, but ever since probably I would say 13, we understood in my family's houses all the time. It seemed like something was always following us to house to house. We always had the normal footsteps, things moving, lights moving. Uh, but we never really had like too many like physical altercations face to face with anything. Besides, I had one maybe about 10 years ago. We decided to go, we went out for a night and then we came in. It's dark in the house. And I go in my room and it's the first time I think I had contact with a shadow person, because literally I walked into my room, it's pitch black, but whatever was standing in my doorway was darker than the room. And it made me stop in my tracks, like I was gonna walk into something, but there's nothing there. It was a wide open space. And just recently, I don't know, I'm not really a believer on that part. I do believe in the paranormal, but I had a psychic about a year ago tell me that he felt like I was empath. And I felt through a long time that I've always been drawn to the dead. I don't know why. I just felt like I was drawn to it. I always went to haunted places. I don't know if something was attached to me and brought to my family's houses, but I've always chased it. I'm not sure if the last guest you just had, did she say she lived in Illinois?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm from Illinois. I'm from Southside, a suburb of Chicago called Blue Island. And you go back to the history of my town, like she was saying about Indians, supposedly our town was Indian, where Indians lived and were also buried. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But we also have, I don't know, she would have probably told, and she probably knows, we also have one of the most haunted cemeteries in the United States. If people know about the paranormal and do the research, they'll probably know it's called Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. It's located in Oak Forest. It's from around the 1800s. A lot of stories go by that place, but that was a regular place that I visited. Had plenty of experiences. I've actually had experience with a ghost horse. It was daylight, and we went there to do some pictures and do things like that, see if we could catch anything. And we started following what were horse tracks. We kept following and following and following, but one part, it didn't make sense. And the tracks led through two trees that were probably no more than 9 to 10 inches apart. And it just kept going. But it went through the trees. And this tracks probably went for about maybe a quarter mile. But like I said, I don't know if anything was attached to me. So, last few years, I've been dealing with sleep apnea. And I really got a feeling that something tried to save my life probably about a month ago in my sleep. Because obviously everybody knows sleep apnea, you can't stop breathing, you cannot wake up. So I was laying down, and it was so real to me that it blew my mind, and I was up for the rest of the night. Like, I could not think straight. In my dream, the only thing I could remember, anything, was somebody coming up, and it was a woman, slowly going towards my face, putting her hand under my chin, and lifting slowly my head up, propping my head up. Now, in my dream, that's what I see. But I literally woke up from my head moving upward. And as soon as I realized I was awake, I started looking around like, who the hell just pulled my head up? And I don't know who, I don't know, but like I said, it was a woman. Didn't really get into it because it was so quickly. Like I said, it was sleep apnea. I don't know if I was really dying. I don't know if that was what was happening. So it was just a woman put her hand out, put her hand under my chin, and literally lifted my head up. And I woke up looking around like, who the hell just picked my head up? Because I could literally feel my head moving, waking me up. And that was about a month ago, and that was probably the craziest thing that ever happened. But like I said, I chased the stuff. I love it. I do believe in that there's an afterlife, depending if you're stuck here or not. But it is a crazy feeling when you experience it, something like that. Like I said, I've walked in, like I felt like I walked into a shadow person about 10 years ago. But that one there, it really messed with my head for a few days.
Yeah, I'd say. Do you have any older women passed away or anything, or any?
The last two women in my family that passed away was my grandmother. She died in 21 from COVID, and then my great grandmother from dementia. I was very, very close with my great grandmother, but it was a younger woman, and it just didn't feel like I don't feel like I ever met her before. So I don't know if it's a spirit or something that was here in my house and just like, hey, I gotta help him or something. But like I said, it literally, I woke up to my head feeling like it was actually being lifted slowly. And as I'm lifted almost all the way up, I could see, I open my eyes and I'm just looking to expect somebody in front of me holding my head. But there was nothing there. And that was the weirdest feeling. Like I said, it just threw me off for a couple of days. I'm just like, what touched? It made me scared of the apnea part. because it's like, was I dying? Was it helping me trying to figure out hey, you got to wake up and breathe? Because I've had people tell me like, yeah, you stop breathing, bro. You stop breathing. And it was just a real, like I said, it was only about a month ago, and it was a really, really freaky feeling because I literally wanted to see somebody, and it was just nobody was there in front of my face. There was nobody. Yeah. But I could see it clearly before I woke up. Like it was like somebody literally, no evil, no smile, no, just a blank face, female, put her hand out slowly and just put it under my chin, lifted my head up. And I woke up. And like I said, it blew my mind. It was to me, it was pretty cool, but it was also scary.
Yeah, but, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
it is. It's like the most amazing feeling to experience the paranormal, but it's also like it hits you on like a primal level when it comes to like the fear part of it. So I know what you mean by that.
Definitely, because I really got more interested. Actually, it was pretty crazy. My ex-girlfriend, her grandmother was a paranormal investigator. So she started showing us like all these films that she had. And when you start seeing something interact on an intelligent level, it's just something totally different to experience. Because, I mean, she was showing us things that were answering with moving objects. She said it all started because her house was haunted, so she decided just to record everything, do research, all of it. So she turned into going to other places. And she showed us videos of like rugs floating through the air, like unexplainable things, and it was just like, and this is VHS, so it's kind of hard to mess with those videos back then. DVDs and digital, yeah, that's easier to compromise, but these were VHS tapes. So they were done off older video recorded, so it was pretty cool. It was amazing, but like I said, it just, those 2 times really messed with my head a little bit. Walking into, like I said, the shadow part was weird because my room was pitch black. And then to sit there and open a door and walk, but something there was darker than the room. And it made me stop and move back like I was going to literally walk into somebody. But then it clicked in my head like, wait a minute, there should be nobody in my room because there's nobody home.
Yeah.
I'm the first one walking through his door. So it literally just messed with my mind. But yeah, I've had stories of like my brother. He's got scared of the house with him and his friend and left the house and sat outside for 3 hours until we all showed up. We had one house that it just all the time you heard footsteps in our attic. All the time footsteps. The chandelier will move sometimes, but it was just footsteps. And it took me was the first one to hear it. Then it was my brother. And then finally my mom believes us because she ended up hearing it. So she finally believed us. And one day he said, we came home and we're like, why are you outside? And he's like, we got scared. And we're like, why? He's like, we had an attic door in our dining room and the stairs led up to like a butterfly door that opened up sideways. He's like, he said, we heard the butterfly door open, footsteps come down the stairs, but the bottom door never opened. And he said it freaked them out, and they sat outside for about 3 hours. But yeah, we all our family, like my brothers mostly, because me and him really are connected to each other. Like me and him are close. But he'll tell me all the time. Like he tells us, we'll tell stories. Like yes, our houses, we see the shadows, the lights, the things that move, the sounds. We see it. And like I said, it took years finally until my mom realized, hey, there's somebody in the house that ain't real. So then she believed it. She tried to get a blessing, but to me, everything we encountered, it didn't seem like it was trying to hurt us or anything. So we didn't bother. We didn't like, hey, it's scaring us. We can't deal with it. We just went on our normal everyday life, and it was like, oh, wait, the sounds are there again. Oh, wait, the light's moving again. It was just normal. I don't know if it was residual or if it was intelligent. Have no clue. But, like, the most intelligent one is the one that happened about a month ago. And like I said, it blew me away for days. because I'm just like, who the hell? And then it just made me even more crazy because I'm like, I want to know who this woman is. You know, I don't know who this woman is. I want to know who this woman is, and that's what makes it even more crazy because it's like I can see dark hair, but I can't see, you know, facial structures. I know it was a white woman, but it's like, like I couldn't see clothes, so I can't say, oh, it was from this time period, or if this was this old. I couldn't say that. It was just I could see a body with the face and a hand going out and gesturing my head up, and it was the craziest feeling ever. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that is amazing. Well,
Yeah,
thank
but
you
that's
so
cool that
much
that woman was
for
from
coming
Illinois too,
open.
though. That was cool
Yeah.
that that woman was from Illinois. I'm like, how it was a small world. She's talking about Indians in Illinois, and I'm like, well, yeah, they were in Illinois. But I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you guys. I just wanted to share a little crazy stuff, but
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for coming up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know all about
Let's see. Well, all right, guys, we're doing pretty good tonight. We got almost 100 people in here. That's pretty good considering I've been gone for a little while. Everybody tap the screen, send some likes. More likes equals more people equals more scary stories. So let's get the number up as high as we can get it. Just tap like crazy. Um, Harry, did you say you had ever seen a shadow person?
Oh yes, several.
Yeah.
I see
Did
them
you
daily.
also did you also notice when you had encounters with them the how pitch black they are, like a
Oh
void?
yeah, they're very dark,
That's yeah,
darker
that's
than the dark in the
something.
room.
Yeah, that's something that I noticed because I had that encounter on that investigation years ago. I've talked about it several times on the live streams. We were doing an investigation, and the entity that the homeowner had captured in a picture was a shadow person, and I ended up seeing a shadow person that night, and it was like looking into a black hole.
Yeah,
It was just like so intensely dark. It was
right. Because you have
crazy,
the
and
darker the room, you have the
yeah.
dark room, and what you see is actually black. It's not just dark.
Hmm.
It's like you said, it's just
Yeah.
like a looking into a black hole. There's nothing there.
Hmm. Yeah, it's crazy how that happens. And then there was several years ago, there was a paranormal team caught a picture somewhere in California of a shadow person, and I did like a image analysis video on it on the other video platform. And when I put it into Photoshop and started looking at the image, it was so intensely dark that the camera didn't expose the pixels inside of it, which was really strange. It's so weird. There's something about shadow people that just fascinates me to no end.
Right.
But
Me too. Because like you said, I see a lot of them here. Almost
yeah.
every night, sometime or another, I'm going to see something. They never, they never try to contact or nothing like that. They're just there.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's
Yeah.
residual or what, but it's an every night thing. I'm just gotten to the
Yes.
point where even when I see them, I don't even respond to them anymore because it's happened so much.
Hmm. Someone in the comments said, what do you think they are? I don't know. I had a psychic one time say that they're just, I forget exactly how she worded it, but basically they're just like a natural occurring phenomenon, but they are observers. And I always found this interesting. She said that they come around just to observe, that that's really their only MO, I guess, is just to watch us because we're interesting. And for some reason, that made them so much more creepy than they initially were in my mind.
Do you
So
think it
I
could
don't
be
know
something
what
like
they are.
from another dimension, right there close, but you can see them?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
something like that.
you never know. I mean, there's so many things that's happening around you. We don't really know. It's just theory.
Yeah, exactly. Um, let's see. All right, guest box is open, guys. If anybody wants to come up and share a story, doesn't have to be about ghosts. It can be about extraterrestrials. If you have like UFO sightings. If you have a Loch Ness Monster sighting, I need to hear it. Somebody's going to have to tell me a Loch Ness Monster story at some point in the near
I
future.
that Loch Ness monster, but I saw a huge turtle one day out fishing.
Oh, really?
I mean, he was probably about 4 or 5 foot long. The thing was gigantic.
Holy cow, that's like Galapagos turtle
It's huge,
size, isn't
huge.
it?
I've never
Wow.
seen a turtle that big in my life. To my brother, I
You
thought I'm
don't
gonna flip the boat.
you don't live next to like a nuclear plant or anything, do you?
No, I live out in the country. If anything, it's fertilizers getting into the water from the farmers.
Yeah. Yeah, that might have an impact on it now that you mention it. That's kind of crazy. I know where I'm from, I grew up really close to the Ohio River, and there was always running jokes about, mutated creatures in the Ohio River because
Yeah.
there's like all sorts of terrible things going on up and down the river. But everybody says that there are catfish the size of Volkswagens, and everybody says that verbatim about
I've
the
heard that too.
creatures. Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be a pretty common phrase. They say that about the what are they called? The rivers or the lakes down there close to LBL in Kentucky too. They say that they've got, really big
I've seen some
stuff.
pretty big catfish, but I've never seen anything that big.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be terrifying.
Yeah, that's something that could swallow you up.
All right, guys, somebody get in here and tell us a story. Your spookiest story of all your spooky stories. We want to hear it. A fish story.
I have another one real quick. I was coming back from town. I was driving, me and my wife in the car, and we turned on off of one road onto another and started heading up the road. It was right by a farm, and there was open field on either side. And I saw something black cross the road. It was standing upright, looked like it had a coat on. And I actually stopped, turned around, went back. There was nothing there. It crossed the road and it was gone. It's the only time I've ever seen it. It's never happened again.
That's weird. That sounds a lot like my dog man sighting. Except
Yeah,
we ran over whatever it was. Me and my friend, we hit it. We hit it with all four tires of a '94 Mustang, and it lived. It took off immediately, so that was terrifying. Whatever it was, I don't know if it's still roaming the hills of eastern Kentucky, but it might be. So if you're in eastern Kentucky, don't go in the woods after dark because there's something out there. Um, there's so many things in the woods in eastern Kentucky. My God, it's insane.
yeah.
I think our one dog man, he's probably the least of your troubles if you're out. Oh, Haley says they're in Eastern Kentucky. Oh, we got a bunch of Eastern Kentucky people.
You guys got so many
Cool.
hollers and stuff out that way. It's just acres and acres and
Yeah.
acres of land. It's nobody sees. There's so many things that can hide out there.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, yeah. And I just did I was a guest on Weird Realities recently, and they were talking about like the topic for the night was Weird Kentucky, which is why they had me on there. And we were talking about where things can hide in Kentucky. And there are, not only are there massive plots of land that are basically untouched by humans, we also have
Mhm.
like a very elaborate cave system under Kentucky that no one really knows the extent of, I don't think. Um, Maybe somebody could correct me on that. I would love to talk to someone from like geology or something like from the college or whatever. But
I mean,
um,
like the coal mine.
Yeah, we do have a lot of old mine shafts. We have like the mushroom mines, for example, is one of our big legendary mines. It wasn't a coal mine; it was limestone and then mushrooms. But we have
Hmm.
just natural cave systems. So like Mammoth
Yeah.
Cave and Carter Caves, and there's so many places for creatures and things to hide.
Yeah.
And then we have like the Kentucky Goblin situation, which is really interesting because in several places throughout the state of Kentucky, people have claimed to have experiences with goblins coming out of old mine shafts. And actually, a couple of weeks ago on a live stream here, somebody came up and was talking about it, and they mentioned that it's strange how all of the Kentucky goblins they have ears. And I was like, I never thought about that before. But yeah, everybody that reports goblins in Kentucky, they have ears. Really weird. I don't know what's up
You
with that, but
mean like pointy ears or ears like us?
like, yeah, pointy. If you're familiar with like the Hopkinsville Green Men case, which I always assumed was like UFO extraterrestrial,
Yeah.
but the Sutton family reported that the goblins or the little green men had like big pointy ears, and pretty much most of the goblin sightings in Kentucky they have that same characteristic.
Hmm.
So spooky as
Yeah.
opposed to non-eared goblins. Well, werewolf, the thing about it was is like I always kind of thought that when people said they saw goblins in Kentucky that it was like aliens, like little extraterrestrials. So to think that like, well, wait a second, ET normally doesn't have ears, it kind of makes it. It's like, wow, that's kind of an interesting detail. All right, somebody get up here and tell us a story. We need stories. Tap the screen, send some likes. That'll draw people to us. That will put us out in the TikTokosphere, and we will get people by the hordes, droves of people.
The
Yeah,
TikTok is here.
ultra. Yeah, I try to always make up a word every time I say that, but I should probably pre-plan for that little phrase because I come up with terrible words. Yeah, they're actually ultra terrestrials, and somebody said something about ultra dimensional creatures, and I love the word ultra terrestrials because we have terrestrials, which is us, and then extraterrestrials. But if they live here and they're space aliens, then they become ultra terrestrials, which is super spooky, I think.
Do you remember that movie? I think it was The Ninth Gate.
Mm-hmm.
That came out in the 80s. I think
Yeah.
they had the little men that they found down underneath that tree. Like I guess they were like demons or something underworld things. But
Uh-huh.
that's when I think of goblins or something like that. I almost think about something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I do too.
I've
To
never
me, goblins it's instantly like fey creatures,
right.
pretty much.
I've
So
never really, I've never actually seen one, so I couldn't say. I mean,
yeah. Looks like we have a guest.
cool.
Hello and welcome.
Howdy.
Howdy.
So, I don't know how your lives normally go about for doing like somebody going in. If there's any questions you had before I get going.
Mitch, just come up and share your spookiest spooky story.
Well, it's a little bit of a long one, and I actually mentioned that I was actually got on the radio telling this before. Um, there's an overnight show, at least down here on 7:40 a.m. It's basically just kind of like all the weird stuff that kind of happens in the world. But the basic gist of the story is that I see Slenderman every 10 years since I was 6. The first time didn't really realize what it was because I was 6. And I told my mom, hey, there's a man outside the window. I could see him in the neighbor's tree. And she looked and she didn't see nothing. Um, then like I said, every 10 years since then I've been encountering him. And I didn't realize at first who I was encountering, but it's the closest I can equate by a lore that I was able to find is Slenderman, which you go look up the lore. He goes back to, I think, the 12th century Germany is the furthest back I was able to find. But anyhow, there was a stretch of woods out behind my house that I lived in. It's a suburban neighborhood, and this stretch of woods is one of those kind of odd places that doesn't go away in the outer areas of cities. They eventually made it into a reservoir, which they expanded it since this had happened, so the woods aren't even there anymore. But pretty much the stretch was only about 100 yards deep and about a mile and a half from one end to the other, and I was off towards the road side of it when I kind of got this unsettling feeling, like something felt wrong. And it was getting towards dusk, like the sun was still making light, but it was behind the trees, so no direct sunlight anymore. And I kind of looked around because, like I said, something felt wrong. And I looked back behind me towards the road, and that's when I saw him. And he's impossibly tall, impossibly thin, just a black figure. Uh, it's like when you see him, there's just this feeling of dread, like you need to not be here. And as rapidly as I could, I was going basically full Tarzan, running across the woods because there's one trail that does lead back out, but he was between me and the safe side of the woods, so to speak. So I couldn't really make the cut to go down the trail because as fast as I went, he kept pace with me and was slowly getting closer to me. And every time I got a chance, like hopping over a log, swinging around a tree or something, I could get a glimpse behind me and I could see that he was always getting closer. Like the terrain didn't matter to him; he was just kind of casually moving along. And like I said, every single time that I got a chance to look behind me, he was closer, he was closer, he was closer. And I didn't realize how fast I was going or how far I had already made it. When I actually got to the end of the woods, there's about a 10-foot span of flat space before the top of the bayou, which a bayou is basically like it's flood retention down here in southern Texas. Um, it's where they can kind of divert floodwaters and stuff. It's like a small. Uh, well, sometimes they get big, but it's like a small river that has wide embankments and it's pretty far down, usually about 20 to 30 feet, depending on which one you're looking at. So I actually had cleared that 10-foot span of open space from the tree line to the top of the bayou and slid all the way to the bottom of it before I was able to stop myself. And when I stopped, I looked back and he stayed right in the end of the trees and it's like he was staring at me. And from there, I didn't want to come back up and I didn't want to cross over the bayou because it was actually kind of deep there. So I just kept walking along the bottom of it back towards another entrance to the neighborhood that I knew about. Well, the trees continued along the edge of the neighborhood for a good while until they stopped at the back end of one of the rows of houses. And he stayed just at the end of the tree line until he hit the end of the trees and he just stopped right there. And it's like he couldn't leave the trees. Which, like I said, going back to the lore of Slenderman, he always stays in wooded areas. He never comes out, in the open, so to speak. And after maybe 100, 200 yards, I came back up to the top of the bayou and I looked back and I could still see him there, but he would never leave the tree line. And that was the last time I'd seen him that year. So that was when I was 16. And when I was 26, I never had a direct encounter with him, but I kept seeing him places. Like, you think you see something kind of off out in the way and you don't really think anything of it. And you look again, it's gone. Well, that's kind of what it would be, except I would look again and I would actually see him standing there. I mean, it was always in a wooded area that I was driving past or something like that. The places I've lived since then, haven't really had trees around them, so I haven't really been worried about encountering them anywhere. And the part that's kind of unnerving about this whole thing is I'm 35 right now. I turn 36 later this year, so I potentially have another encounter up and coming that I'm not particularly looking forward to.
Yeah, I wouldn't be looking forward to that either.
No, it's the first one was kind of benign because it's like he was hanging out in the neighbor's yard, and I happened to spot him. And like my mom, my sister, they all know about the story because my sister was living with us at the time, and my mom was the one that was there when it happened. It's kind of funny because of that event. When you close your blinds, everybody has a way they do it. Most people don't really think about it, but I always close my blinds so the slats are pointing up, so something can't look down into my window.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Even like the fancy ones that you rotate them down and they kind of seal up. I still don't even trust those. Like I always roll them up. For it's a thing in the back of my brain. I just always have done it that way, and it's because of that. At that house, my window they're high windows, so like the top of the window was like 7 feet up, an 8 foot ceiling, and the bottom window was like 4 feet up. So if something was outside, it'd be able to look in and look right at you. Whereas if it's rolled up, you can't see anything in the room. And ever since I was a kid, I've always done the blinds that way because he's extremely tall, like 8, 9 feet tall. And it's kind of like if you took just like an averagely built guy and just stretched him way out. You didn't add any bulk to him. You just stretched him out like, like Play-Doh or something.
Mm-hmm.
So like all the proportions are just subtly wrong. The limbs are too long. The head's kind of oblong, and he's just super long torso, really long skinny legs. It's very unsettling and unnerving to see him in the first place. But he's got a definite substance to him. It's like stuff doesn't interact with him. It's not like a shadow person
Yeah.
where a shadow person's like a shadow walking around. There's a whole different story on those guys that I can tell you too.
Yeah, we were just
But
talking about shadow people, and they're kind of like little bitty black holes. So, yeah.
depending, I've actually discovered through my actual interactions that there's a bunch of different kinds of shadow people. Funny enough, um, there's actually same neighborhood. There was another little wooded place that we call the Ramps. It was right next to the pool. It's kind of like they built a small retention pond and then just let everything grow again. So there was all these trees growing up through it, and all the young neighborhood kids, we all had bikes and stuff, so we always rode around. Well, we went down into there and we built dirt ramps all over the place, so we could ride in and goof around and be dumb kids as we would. Well, there's one time I actually have gone in there by myself. Again, I have a bad habit of going places I shouldn't be around sunset, but around when the sun was going down, I happened to be in there, and you just kind of saw them kind of appearing everywhere. And the first one I saw, I thought it was my buddy because we had been riding around that day.
Hang on just a second. We're getting a little bit of feedback or something. Harry, can you mute for a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just mute for a second. Okay, go ahead.
There it goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first one I saw, actually, I thought it was a buddy of mine because we had been riding around, and I said, hey, I'm gonna go hang out the ramps and goof around for a little while. And he said if he can, he'll meet me out there in like half hour to an hour or whatever. And it was around in that time span where he would have been showing up. So I thought it was him, and I said something, and he didn't say anything back. And I looked over, and I realized that's just a shadow with no person. I kind of had that oh crap moment. The classic. That's not good. Lack of a better way to describe it. I'm trying to keep my language as PG as I can. I don't know who all is going to be listening or not.
Yeah, TikTok is pretty sensitive about language, so.
Well, on my lives, they don't care, but if somebody decides to have a cigarette, they sure get mad about that.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, so is that kind of like, oh crap moment, realizing that there's not a body attached to the shadow that's just chilling there in the air. Like it's like if somebody had a sheet hanging there, casting a shadow on it, but there's no sheet, so you can just see right through the shadow to what's behind it, and they were just standing there, and it's like nothing, they didn't interact with anything, they weren't moving. I looked around to make sure I wasn't like having, a weird moment, like that's actually a shadow, that somebody was like walking by and just stopped for a second or something in the sunlight, and there's nobody around anywhere. And it's not a very big area that I was in, so it's really easy to tell, hey, you're the only living person here right now. And after I realized for sure that there's nobody casting that shadow, I looked back and there was another one. And in the span of like 5 minutes or so, there was about 20 of them that were just aimlessly milling around in the ramps. And it was kind of weird because like some of them never moved. No matter what I did, where I moved, they didn't do anything. But there's a couple that would follow me around. And I'd go off towards one area, and they would follow me over there, but they never got any closer. It's like they just like watching what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I said, there's the static ones, but then there was other ones that you just got a bad vibe off of. Like they were just kind of off, wandering around doing whatever they were wanting to do, but you just like, I should stay away from that. And the thing that was bothersome is the ones that are like stay away from were all close to where the entrances and exits were. And there's 4 ways into the ramps that everybody knows about, and that's where all those are grouped up around. There's one other way we can get in and out that only a couple of us knew about, that you kind of have to go off through a kind of overgrown area. And I was able to go through there and get back out. And when I got back out, I could actually look back in there, and you could still see all of them in there. It was really strange that they wouldn't leave the area, like they just stayed in there. And I discovered later that I could go back, and certain times of the year they would show up. Like around, it's like early fall they would show up, and like the tail end of winter they would show up. Like not quite to spring, but like right in the coldest time of year you would see them. And then also there's one time like right in the middle of summertime you would see them out there. That basically the hottest point of the year, around late July, early August is when another time you could see them out there. And for the longest time, I could go back at any of those times, and it was almost like you just knew that they were going to be there. And I haven't gone back in many years, so I don't know if they're still showing up or not.
Was there like a lot of UFO activity out there by any chance?
Not really, not in that area. There's other parts around town that have had a little bit, but nothing overly noticeable.
Yeah. Yeah, it made me think of a lot of case reports I've read and heard about, relating to like UFO activity and extraterrestrial stuff. Um, yeah, someone in the comments is asking if they can come up. Yeah, I'm gonna get to you just a second. Just send a guest request, and it'll just be a little bit. But yeah, well, thank you for telling us about that. That's really strange, and I don't know. I've never heard anything like that before.
Yeah. And like I said, I've got bundles of stories I could tell, but you do have other guests that want to get in here, so I won't waste too much time.
Oh yeah,
Um,
you can always just come back up later too if you have some other stories you want to talk about.
like I said, I've got bundles of them. Meeting my grandfather about 20 years after he died. That was an interesting one. But anyway, that was kind of all the ones I really wanted to share with everybody at the moment. If you ever
Okay.
get into
Yeah.
doing research on stuff, look up some of the oddities that have happened around Houston, Texas. 'Cause that's where
Yeah.
99% of all my interactions have happened is in that city.
Mhm. Yeah, I've heard that Texas has a ton of activity, and I actually one of my co-pilots who's not here tonight, he lives in Texas, and he's got some cool stories, and he's heard some cool stuff. I wish he was here to chime in on that because he's a Texan, but he's not here. So, but yeah, thanks for coming up, and I'm gonna move on to the next guest, and hopefully you stick around and come back later.
I actually gotta get heading home, so I probably won't be back on
Alrighty.
tonight. But I'm dropping you a follow, so I may hop back in on another time.
Alrighty. That sounds good.
All right, y'all have a good one.
Thanks. You too. Come on. Come on. What? My buttons don't work very good. Harry, I'm sorry. I felt bad, but like you had some feedback and stuff. I always try to like mute when I'm not talking just so that there's not like noise or whatever because the
Yeah,
audio
it's all
on
good. I
here,
understand.
what is it?
I said it's all good. I understand.
Yeah. Are you still good to hang out or do you need to go or anything?
No, I'm good. I'm not going anywhere.
Alrighty. We got a bunch of people.
I'm
All
with
right,
you. I
let's
just
see.
had
I
a cup of coffee. I'm
believe
good.
J Lo was here first. I tried to remember what order everybody came in. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
You got a spooky story for us?
Yeah. I mean, I have a couple, and they happened in the same area. Um, I live in Clarksburg, West Virginia, and there's a hill here. It's called Lowndes Hill, is what we call. There's a YMCA up there, but it's an old Civil War um, lookout, and you can research it and everything. It's here in Clarksburg, West Virginia. But anyways, there's a hill that goes across there, and it's like a one road. And one night, me and my dad were going up there. It was about midnight, and we were driving over the hill. He was taking me to one of my friend's house. I was going to go over there and hang out for the rest of the night. And as we were driving across the hill, we both looked over, and about 100 feet away from the car, there was like a red and green lights. They weren't blinking, but they were like just stationary about 20 to 30 feet above the trees, but which was only about 100 yards from us or so. And as we looked over, like I was like, oh, those lights are new. And as we looked, there were a circular object. I mean, it was, saw it like anything I could think of, a saucer shaped, like a UFO, a classical one. But it was there hovering over the trees. And I was like, Dad, stop, let me get a picture of this, of it, so I can like have proof of it. And my dad would not stop the car. Like he looked over, he glanced over, seen it, like, it didn't seem like it fazed him or anything. Like he just kept driving and was like, nope, we don't need to stop and take a picture. We've already seen enough. And he just kept driving. And it was, I was very mad at him at the time. I really was. I was so mad, like mind blown and everything. But I kind of feel like that was probably the best thing to do. Well, was just to keep driving, because just how close. I mean, it did scare me to death. But at the same time, where this object was at in the trees, years before that, I was hanging out in the woods with my buddies, like late at night, having a bonfire, like, kids do or whatever. We weren't kids. We were, in the teenage years, but we're having a bonfire in the woods or whatever. And some lights came up. These were just people, we thought we were getting ran off of this spot we were having a bonfire on. And so we took off. A couple of us got scared and took off running into the woods. Well, I had no flashlight, no nothing, ran into the woods, got to the top of the hill. I could see like the bonfire down below, and I could hear people talking or whatever. But as this happened, I thought was another person, my buddy that ran in the woods with me, because we completely separated by ourselves, and without him, it was just by myself. and I thought it was him in the dark coming up to me. And it was bipedal. I could hear it stomping along, and it came right up to me, and I thought it was him. I'm whistling at it because I didn't want to like say anything. I was just whistling, and it came right up to me, and I'm sitting on the side of the bank or the side of the hill, and I hear it as soon as it gets right up to me, it starts sniffing like a dog would sniff you or something. And I mean, it scared me so bad. I jumped up, yelled, "Jacob," and took off down the hill, like through briars. Like I tumbled down that hill and got all cut up and everything. But I have no clue what it was, or to this day. And I mean, when I was sitting on the bank and it was above me, it had to have at least been 6 feet tall. But these are two instances that happened in the exact same spot. Where this happened to me at, with the bonfire years before, later on after that is where I seen this, me and my father seen this UFO. That I'm saying is a UFO. I have no clue what it was, but it was clear as day. I mean, just sitting there hovering above the trees, no sound, no nothing other than red and green lights that were not blinking. They were just on the sides of it. And this is a story I tell all the time. My dad, gets embarrassed, but he backs me up when it says, yeah, I was not going to stop the car. There was no way I was going to stop the car.
Yeah, I wouldn't stop the car either. I don't know. That sounds pretty spooky.
Yeah, and my father has a story from younger when he was younger, about 16, 15, and he was hunting and saw lights like come right over top of him right at dark, and he ran off the hill scared to death. So he already had an experience with something like that he did not want nothing with. Whenever I was like, stop the car, like I was yelling at him, like, stop the car, like, and he just wouldn't do it. He said, no, we've seen enough. and he just kept driving.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's on top of Lowndes Hill in Clarksburg, West Virginia. There's an old Civil War grounds up there.
I wrote that down. I'm going to look it up after the stream because it sounds really interesting. And I'm getting ready to start doing like some West Virginia stories and some other, different states. And that sounds really crazy. So are there, do you know if there is like a Bigfoot presence in the area?
Actually, now that you say it, I have a story with that. I mean, me and my brother-in-law were hunting at the WMA. It's a wildlife management area. It's, I'm trying to think of the best area to call it, where it's at. I mean, right here, it's right here in Harrison County, West Virginia. I'll just say that. The WMA here in West Virginia, Harrison County. But we were up there like just squirrel hunting and stuff, and we had my little niece with me. She was about 4 or 5 at the time, and somewhere around there, and she was hunting with us. We were just take her on the hill, and we just had a couple like 22 calibers there, just squirrel hunting. And we go up there and we didn't see anything, we didn't hear anything. Like, we even noted that it was weird. There was no chatter from the squirrels and no chatter from the birds. Like, there was nothing. It was dead silent. And we're just walking through there, and I kind of got bored. I was like, whatever. And I let him know. I was like, hey, I'm about to shoot real quick, just target practicing. So I should go to shoot at a tree, but I just did it real quick off the fly. But I let him know and his daughter know and everything. But as I did it, though, we heard maybe 50 feet to our right, and we were in this big field. It opened up into a field, and we're walking through the field looking for squirrels, groundhogs, whatever that was in season. And I just shoot. Well, as that happens, we hear a growl, but like a kind of like a roar happen to my right. And we both instantly looked over. And as that happened, we saw what we thought at the time was a black bear, because they're pretty prevalent here in West Virginia. And what we thought was a black bear, and it like roared, growled at us, and then took off. I mean, really fast. And as that happened, we look at each other like we both heard it, but we're separated on this field by about 30 feet walking through it. And we both seen and heard it. We look over and we're like, what the heck was that? And we go over to where we saw it at. And the field drops off about 6 feet down instantly. Like, so where the flat was that we saw this thing running on was about 6 feet below the horizon of seeing it in the field. So that whatever it was we saw had to have at least been 6 feet tall, at least been. And it wasn't like a bear. If a black bear was there, it would have done took off, because the way we came up was like a big U. So you come up and then come into the field like it, and it's really tight, that loop that comes around. And as that happened, like it ran off, and we're just sitting there like, what was that? But there's no way it was a bear. Like, there's no way it was a bear. Where we saw it at and how high and how it ran, no way it was a bear. And as that happened, we're sitting there like, we're like, okay, well, let's leave. Like, that was, that was weird. Let's leave. And we go to leave, and as that happens, a dog runs up on us, a huge, like, shepherd dog, I'm not real sure breeds, runs up on us, barking like bizarre, hair standing up 3 inches on its back, like, ready to eat us. And I have my niece there with us. So, we are sitting there, like, screaming, like, if anybody's with this dog, come get it, because it's about to attack us. It's about 20 feet away from us, about to attack us. And, we had our arms drawn on it. Like, we were honestly that scared, like it was going to try to hurt us. And the owner runs up, after it and says, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. My dog has never done that before. Like, I'm so sorry. I can't believe this has happened. Like, I don't know what got into her. Like, she heard something and seen something and just took off from me. And she ran into you guys, and I've never seen her bark at a human. Like, she never acts like that at all." He apologized every way he could. And we're like, "Listen, man, we understand, like, from what we just saw 3 seconds before this happened, before your dog ran up, like, we could understand, like, your dog probably smelled or seen whatever just ran out of here growling." And he was like, "I didn't see anything, He's like, "My dog just took off. It was crazy." But yeah, that happened right here at the WMA that we have here. So yeah, I mean, there's some instances, I can say that there's some Bigfoot activity that I 100% think they're here for sure. I believe in them, and I think they're here. I think you're muted. I can't hear you. There you go.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's well, West Virginia, you said, what part was it?
Clarksburg? Yeah, and it's in Harrison County.
Yeah, well, I'm from Eastern Kentucky, and I've traveled a lot in West Virginia. It's just, quite a few different places, and it's probably the only place I know of right off that is a better habitat for Bigfoot than Kentucky. And I think we have so much open, untouched forest area that anything could really be hiding there. So, as soon as you said the story about, hearing the thing sniff you, that was my first thought. Was like, oh my God, is it a squatch?
Yeah, at the time I thought it was a coyote, like in my memory. Like at that time I was like, oh my gosh, there was a coyote up there. But now, like, it took me a month or so to think about it, and I'm like, no, I'm sitting on the side of a hill, and it was right at the same level as me, but yet the sound of sniffing was coming about 4 feet above my head sitting down.
Yeah.
So, and I never put that together, I just heard the sniffing and thought immediately, like, oh, that's some type of dog, canine, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just never put it together that, oh my God, that came from about 4 feet above my head.
Yeah, and that is exactly why I don't go into the woods.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And of course,
Well,
I ran off
like...
the hill screaming, and none of my friends believed me. They're like, yeah, sure you did.
Well, thank you for coming up and telling us about this. These are some good stories. It sounds like you got a lot of activity there.
Yeah, I'm just glad to get them off my chest because, yeah, they're something I don't tell most people.
Yeah.
But all right,
Yeah.
I appreciate the platform to tell them on. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming up. Have a good night.
You too.
Oh, wow. I love Bigfoot stories. Bigfoot is just the most exciting thing in the world to me. Oh wow, we've got so many people. Okay, who was next? I believe maybe you. I think you were next. Hello and welcome.
Hello. So I am a paranormal investigator, but this isn't a story about ghosts. The story I have happened to me when I was very young. I was born and raised in northern Arizona, and I was living many, many years out in the desert. And you think forests are scary. Deserts can be very scary also. I was 12 years old and I came home from school, regular day, what I always did, come home from school, eat my snack, do my homework, and then I'd go out and play. Went out and played, but had a certain area I could play at. I could play in the front yard, I could play in the backyard. As I was playing in the front yard, it was about 5 in the evening. The sun was still up, but it was going down. And I'm out there, and off in the distance, we were living about 25 miles away from an Air Force base. And I remember looking out, and it was getting a little dark, and I saw a light come up from the ground. Now, I didn't think anything strange about it because living near an Air Force base, you would see aircraft. But as I was looking at this thing go up, and I'm outside with my jump rope, and I'm 12 years old, and I'm jump roping, I see this light come up. All of a sudden, to the right and to the left, I see 2 lights come in. And they connect to the one that had come up from the ground. And then one came down from the sky, and they came together and kind of did a strange little curvy dance. That's all I could say. And I'm watching this in amazement as a 12-year-old girl, watching this in amazement. And all of a sudden, it started coming forward, and it flew over my head. And the next thing I knew, I look around, and it's dark, very dark. And I go, what the heck? This is so strange. Was I just staring at this thing forever and it's dark, and I run inside and my family's like, where have you been? We haven't been able to find you. It was midnight. And so I had all this, I have no idea where the time went from 5 to midnight. I saw this thing, but I didn't know what it was. I was obsessed for 2 years drawing this thing over and over again on paper. I just had to, I had to tell people, what is this thing that I saw? I saw this strange thing. Well, I'm 49 now, but at 35, I had some medical issues that required me to get some CT scans and MRIs. And as they were doing it, I hear the tech go, what the heck is that? And I said, what the heck? And she goes, come here, I got to show you this. And she goes, do you see this thing in your lung that's near your spine? She said, it is a disc shaped something and it's reading it as metal. And she looks at me and laughs and says, just out of just sheer being funny, have you been abducted by aliens? And it's something that I had not thought about for a long, long time at that time. And I'm going, what? And she goes, it's a disc and it's like a moon shape. And she says, but I can still have an MRI, so it doesn't have any magnetic issues with it. But any scans that I have reads it as a foreign object, as it's metal and very dense. And that's all they can read it. It's just foreign. And it's like in the back of my lungs, right up against my spine. So that is unexplainable. Have no idea.
So is it still there?
It is still there. They figure it's been there. What they're figuring, they say it's been there all my life. I have no idea. But just the funny part about it was her asking me was just out of the blue, have you been abducted by aliens? I think she was being funny. And I'm like, no. She
Yeah.
goes, well, have you been stabbed? Have you been shot? She says, because this is reading it as something incredibly foreign and it's actually reading it as metal. So as for that, I have no idea if that has anything to do with, I mean, that's the only thing that I can think about, but you know, I have no idea. No idea.
Someone in the comments is asking, like, how big is it roughly?
It is it's the size of a coin.
Size of
So
a
about the
coin.
size of a
Wow.
quarter. And so it's
Wow.
dented.
That's
It's like a crescent shape. So it's shaped like a crescent shape. And any scans read it as a metal object, a foreign metal object. And I have not had
wow.
any procedures done. I have no scars. I have never had anything done. So that is just unusual and strange.
Yeah, that's have you ever heard any of the stories? There used to be like TV specials and stuff back in like the early 90s, and I watched every single one of them about like UFO abductions and stuff with the implants. There were tons of stories about people finding foreign objects in their bodies in basically a roundabout way. Kind of like you went to a doctor and they accidentally found it, and something similar would always happen to these people. And there was one guy in particular, I don't know whatever happened to him, but they made like a documentary and everything about this
Yeah,
case because
he
he
was
had an
actually,
object.
I think he was from where I was from. I was from Winslow, Arizona, which was actually on the Navajo Indian Reservation. So
Yeah, I'm gonna
it's
write that down and look it up because
he
yeah, that's
it was
I believe.
it's a story I had heard about later on in life where in the 60s and early 70s there were a few abductions in the areas of adults that would go out into the forest. I mean, it was desert, but then they had like little pockets of forests up on mountains, up on, other areas, and they disappeared. And then one man was found, and he was from my area, and he called his family from a phone booth. So
Hmm.
that's what I know. I don't remember. All I remember is seeing it. I remember seeing the lights do something strange. They came together. So there was a point where I'm like, that's not an airplane. Even as being a young child, you see the airplane, you see a light come up and go, oh, that's a plane. Not that I saw a lot of them, but that's what your brain says. It's a plane. But to
Hmm.
see the other two come at the same time, zoom on both sides through the sky, and then they connected, and then one come down after that. And they just kind of did a strange flashy thing, and then they just went above me. And then it was dark. It's like I didn't move. It was like I was staring at it. Like I couldn't stop staring at it. And then it was like, where have you been? I'm like, I was on the porch. No, you weren't. We've been out looking for you. So, as for that, I have no idea. But I do know, I think I started getting into a lot of paranormal stuff, a lot of pretty early off when I was younger, started getting into paranormal and extraterrestrial. And it was just it became kind of a hobby or, things you like to read about or whatever. So I know that might be all connected
Mm-hmm.
to that.
Wow.
So there's my story.
Wow. Well, thank you for telling us about that. That is terrifying.
It is, but I don't know. I told my husband, I said, I there's no way they can pull it out. It's not in a place that can ever be pulled out. I don't even know. It's not even, no way, and it's not bothering anything, and I don't know what it would be for. So, but there you go.
Wow. Crazy. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Oh, come on. Why does my button never work? Okay. Harry, are you still awake? Are you still
I'm
with
still
us?
here. I'm still here.
Okay. You went quiet for a while. I didn't know if maybe you had wandered off. What'd you think
No,
about that? That's crazy, wasn't it?
yes, I've that kind of creeps me out. Stuff like that. The ghost stuff don't bother me, but that kind of stuff creeps me
Yeah.
out.
Me too. Me too. Okay, we got a ton of people waiting. I believe the next person, I can't remember now. I think it was. You guys tap the screen and send some likes, and the more likes, the more people, the more stories. Hello and welcome, Tommy.
Hello. So for me, my story, well, in Oregon, we have a thing called black-eyed children.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's a weird cryptid that will show up door to door, pretending to be a child that needs help to be let in. I just It's like another reason why children scare me because it's so terrifying. It just gave me like another reason why to not have kids. And at first we thought, well, me and my foster family thought it was like a sick kid or something. But we went to go like call on the home phone, and then when we went to look through the peephole, of course. Now there's like three children, and like they looked like they were getting like sicker and sicker. And I don't know why, but something told me just never don't touch the door. Like don't even touch the door, like at all. Like don't even let them look at you. I just It was so creepy. It was like their faces were like just getting more like dysmorphed at the moment. It was No, it wasn't trick or treat. It was actually in the middle of it was in the middle of August, and like you could see their faces clearly, and then next thing you know, like their eyes got darker and darker and darker. And then they started screaming and screaming, and then at one point we just called the police, and next thing you know they're gone. But it happened to our neighbors next door as well, and they couldn't find anyone on the ring footage cam. There was nothing there. There was nothing to be found, but there was claw marks of the size of a child's nails on their door. And
Wow.
honestly, I'm just like, that's a whole lot. No, that just. How about no? Can I just like deal with that another day? It was just
Yeah, the
like,
black-eyed children are pretty strange. I've covered them before in a video, and someone in the comments says, like, what do they do to you? That's a good question. What do they do to you if they get you? Do you know?
Honestly, there are rumors where you'll become one of them, or there are rumors where they will take your body. And I don't know, like, I don't know what they would do, like, with the body, like, to make more of them, because, like, it's like they have almost skinwalker behavior, but they're like a parasite. It's like they're pretending something to be like, it's like that one species of bird where they'll lay an egg in a mother's nest, and then that egg, the parasitic egg, will intentionally kill all the other eggs, just knock it out of the nest, so that way the mama bird can feed it. Then it'll kill the mama bird. I don't
And
like that.
suddenly this just became a wildlife show.
Exactly. I don't want to be part of that wildlife. It's just like it's like a parasite, and I'm just like, no, no, keep away. Thank you. I would rather live another day. I choose life.
Oh wow. I've never actually talked to anybody who's had an encounter with the black-eyed children, so
It
very
happens like
interesting.
a lot in Oregon, and Oregon has some really weird crap, but like not like Virginia, like or like Appalachian Mountain weird crap, because like our cryptids aren't like your cryptids. Like it's just stuff that makes you think, like, am I inhaling poisonous gas right now? It really makes you. It's like, is the air quality poor? Am I dying? It just, yeah, it's just like, and their eyes got like darker and darker, and the fact that my foster mother saw it as well. It just, like the videos of like time lapses.
Hmm.
It reminded me of like my grandmother when she was on chemo, except in the worst way possible. It's like they got sicker and sicker and so fast. And I'm just like, I don't feel good. I don't even want to go near the door. Like, I feel nauseous. I suddenly feel afraid. Like, there's like an instinct inside of me that's telling me, go hide in a hole. Like, go find like a dark corner or space or something. Just hide.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I would definitely probably hide from a group of children at my front door as well.
yeah.
Black-eyed or not, I would be like, get off my lawn, children. But well, that is a strange and interesting story. I appreciate you coming up here and telling us about that. And yeah, pretty neat.
Oh, Megan, I did feel their negative energy, without a doubt. It's just scary. No, thank you.
Alrighty, well, I'm gonna move on to the next guest, but thank you for sharing your
Thank,
story.
thank you so much.
I have never met anybody who has seen a black-eyed children, a
I've
black-eyed
heard about
child.
it. I've never seen them.
Yeah. All right, guys. We have so many people in here. We need more hearts. Everybody tap, 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 tap. Snoot boop. You can snoot boop me. Tap the screen. Send some hearts. Get some people in here. More stories. And I don't know who was next. I've lost track. I'm sorry if I don't get to you soon enough. Everybody hang in there. We'll get to you. Hello and welcome.
Hi. So,
You got a spooky story?
yeah, I wanted to share my wife's story of when she got chased by a small Bigfoot. So, what we were doing was one day, we were younger and we'd gotten into an argument, and I left the house. This is on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation in Montana. We lived at the time about 15 miles out of town along this river called the Two Medicine River. There's a lot of trees that go all the way up to the mountains from that tree. From that river, and the mountains are about 15 miles away too. Anyways, I go to town, and I don't know what for. I don't even remember the fight, but as I get back, she starts telling me this story. She said that she went down to where this slough is, this little wet area, and she was picking peppermint. She was going to pick berries, whatever, just get her mind off everything. Well, as she was picking, she had her little bundles made up and everything. She had shoelaces that she was tying up the peppermint with. Well, anyways, everything got quiet. Like, quiet. She noticed it. It stood out to her because everything was quiet. She said you couldn't hear the birds anymore, the insects. You couldn't hear flies. She said the oddest thing about how quiet it was the river even got quiet. She couldn't even hear the river anymore. And so she started hearing this swooshing sound. And what it was some tree branches. They were kind of getting pushed together. So she looked up in this tree. And up top of that tree, well, near the top, about 30 feet up, there's some tall cottonwood trees down there. There was this little hairy thing, like a little hairy man, standing on a branch, but it had its hands above its head, and it was holding another branch, and it was rocking. It was kind of like, almost like it was playing, but she said it was making that tree sway, the whole tree. And I asked her, well, how tall was it? She said about 4 feet tall, 4.5 feet tall. She said, when I looked at it, it noticed me. It looked down. And she said it kind of like turned its head funny, but it kept moving that tree when it was looking at her. And as it looked at her, she said it had this funny look in its face, like, should I play with her? Should I, like how a cat looks at a mouse. And that's what kind of creeped her out. When that happened, she was going to get up to run, and then it dropped from that 30, 40 feet up. It dropped. And when it hit, she heard it, but it didn't sound like it was hurt or anything. And it got up and she could hear, footsteps in the brush. So she started running along this road back up to where we lived. And there's 2 clearings you got to get to before you get up to start going up this road, up this hill. And the whole time she was running, the thing was pacing her. It was right beside her in that tree line that she was running alongside of. Even when you get into that clearing, that tree line is relatively close to you. And so she gets through first clearing, the second clearing, then the neighbor's dogs come running. They were barking. And they ran right past her. This is what I thought was odd about the stories. Normally dogs get scared of those things. But she ran up to the house, into the house, and she went out by the kitchen window. It was open and she was listening. She heard those dogs chase whatever that was way far down the river. And my uncle come out because he stayed right next to, he had a little trailer over there. He come out and he said, what's going on? She said, what are they chasing? She wouldn't tell him. She I don't know. But she was shook up. And I asked her, so how did it look? She said, it was kind of dark on its legs, and as it went up, it got a little bit lighter, kind of like an orangish red, brown. She said it was an odd color. I said, well, what did its face look like? She says, it didn't look like a monkey or nothing, but kind of looked like a monkey, the body and stuff. But she said, no, it looked more human than anything else. And she described hair, not fur. She said there was hair all over its arms. She said it hung long, too, hung down long. She could see him. And it would sway with him when he would move. Anyways, in the same area right there, I was hunting. I'm talking the same area, right where that little slough's at. I used to walk by that to hunt. The same thing happened to me, but this time, I didn't have no little thing chase. I didn't even see nothing. But the branches were broke. They were green broke branches, and they must have been about, I don't know, 6 inches across. They were thick branches. It would have took a lot to break those. But I noticed a whole bunch of them broke in a straight line. It was the oddest thing because I grew up there. I knew every trail in that valley, every trail, about 3 miles up and down a creek. I knew that whole place. And so as I'm walking, that stood out to me. It's the first time I've ever seen something like that. So I followed them. And as I was following them, it started leading into this, in the military, we'd call it a danger area. Because like an ambush site would be a perfect place for an ambush because there was nothing I'd be able to do. It led to that. Once I realized that I was walking into a danger area like that, I stopped and I unslung my rifle and I put it up to my face and I start walking with it. And that's when I realized it was quiet too, like my wife described. But for me, it felt like there was something in my ears, like I was underwater. I don't know, it felt weird, and I couldn't really hear anything, like anything making noises. It was pretty strange. So I start skirting around, and the trail that led into this thick area where those branches led was this weird circular trail. Like you could only see it if you approached from one certain angle, and that's how I seen it, because I was skirting around that area. I had my rifle up to my face. Everywhere I looked is where my rifle barrel pointed. I followed that trail around, and it led into this, I don't know, this dark area with it almost looked like a portal, like a opening in a tree brush. We call it buckbrush. It's so thick that's where the big bucks hang out, because nothing will go in and get them. They're safe in there. And so that's where that, I don't know what it was, like a portal. I don't know a hole in the trees. It was so dark in there, I stopped there and I went back out. That was my only time I've ever experienced anything close to what my wife was talking about. But further down the river, about 2 miles, we were fishing. I was fishing on the cliffs above the water. My dad went down across the water with his girlfriend, and he was soaking his feet on this branch or this log that was kind of wedged on the river. You could sit on it and soak your feet. That's what they were doing. And I was watching him. I was fishing off the cliffs, but not too long, he come up. He says, hey, I got to tell you something. What's that? He looked kind of shook up too, like, so what's going on? He said, we seen a Bigfoot. You could tell he didn't want to seem crazy. I said, what? Yeah, right down here. And I wouldn't go down there to look, but because we were getting ready to leave. And he said, yeah, it was big. I said, what? He said, yeah, it was big. He says, it was black. I said, what did it do? He said, nothing. It just stood there. He said, we must have like kind of surprised it. It must have been by the water because it just stood with its back against the rocks, against the cliff. And its arms were spread out wide to its sides, but like it was holding up the cliff, like just standing still. I said, did it move? Did it do anything? He says, man, the only thing that moved on it was its eyes. I said, how do you know that? Was it? He said, because it never took its eyes off of us. It just kept looking at us as we got our stuff together and we start walking. I asked his girlfriend when we were in the car going to town, I said, what did you see? Did you see that too? She just put her head down and shook her head. She wouldn't talk. She wouldn't talk about it. But that whole area has stories of Bigfoot. If I can, I'll tell one more. So this Bigfoot thing, we call it Imoyitepi, means hairy man. There's another old word for it, translates to nowhere people. Well, anyways, this man was sweating in a sweat lodge, right? And as they were in there sweating during one of those rounds, the covers of that lodge got lifted up and something peeked in there. And I guess the thing that peeked in there kind of looked like an old, I don't know, like a caveman looking thing. They didn't know what it was, but it wasn't good. And when it looked in there, it said, it was laughing at them. And it said, what you guys are doing don't mean anything. This is all, you guys are doing this, it doesn't mean nothing. It's not going to help you. And the man that was leading that sweat, he started praying. They stopped their songs and he was just praying. Everybody was just staring at that thing. And as he was praying, they heard this sound, like these huge footsteps coming to that lodge, there was a little hill off the side of them. They heard something come up from that. And all they heard was that thing screaming, let me go, leave me alone, let me go. And they seen a huge hairy hand reach in and close those those sweat lodge coverings. And as they closed it, it walked off and they could hear it still screaming, pleading, and then it just died out. What happened was a Bigfoot spirit, not the physical kind, the spirit kind, come up there to that lodge when that man was praying. He called on it to help them, and it took that bad thing away, whatever it was. But there's this link between that Imoyitepi spirituality and the Star Nation, those UFOs, and those people. There's a link there. One more link it has too is to those little people. They're around all of those too. That's a lot to think about and to digest, but that's my story. That's all I'm willing to share at this point. Thanks for having me on.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for telling us about that. First of all, I could listen to you tell stories forever. So if you ever want to come back, please do.
Yeah, I've got a
um,
ton of stories. I mean, I've got a lot, not just about these Bigfoot thing. There's more to this Bigfoot too. Like, I guess I'll squeeze in one more. This
yeah,
other man that
absolutely.
I grew up with, he's a spiritual leader. People call him medicine man. You know, he's a holy man, and he taught us a lot of stuff. Well, this man was gifted some what we call medicine. He could use that medicine to heal people and do certain things. And this medicine was given to him by one of those Imoyitapis, one of those spirits. See, that's why like a lot of people say, well, you know, there's a woo factor, they call it, with these Sasquatch things. And a lot of that, as my understanding, and with, you know, the spiritual people in my tribe, well, it's just got medicine. You know, we live in a duality. There's a physical and there's a spiritual. It's how we believe of everything: rocks, planets, trees, wind. Every natural thing has a spirit along with a physical side to it of some sort. So this thing can be a spirit too, or it can be physical. But when it does these crazy things like fast traveling, like somebody will see it, get scared, jump in their car, and drive away from the park 50 miles to their house at top speed. They get there and the thing's standing in their driveway. You know, those kinds of things, how they can travel, or all these other different things that they can do that are unexplainable. Like, you'll see its tracks, all of a sudden they're gone, and from that one point they pace out 50 yards around, just keep going, and the tracks just end mysteriously. So that's what we believe is part of that medicine that it carries. It has that ability, and that's a spiritual thing. It's not a technological or whatever. We believe it's a spiritual thing. So yeah, these things are quite the handful. The further you dig into this, the more you'll find it doesn't make sense. So, but even the natives, this thing predates us. We don't know where it comes from. That's why we give it that old name, the nowhere people. We don't know where they come from. But the old stories say it comes from before the flood. Whatever it is older than the great flood that happened, which we call the water days. It's before that. So, anyways, that's what I wanted to share. And thanks for having me.
Wow. Yeah, that's so awesome. There was something I was thinking earlier when you were talking about how it stood perfectly still and it's just its eyes were moving. I think they know, they're very aware that they can blend in, at least, you know, just what little bit I know about them. And I was just thinking, I was like, yeah, it was just definitely trying to blend in and hope that nobody saw it, probably. But wow, that's amazing. Yeah, please come back anytime if you want to share any other stories. I really appreciate it.
All right, I will. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Wow, that was really cool. I love hearing about stuff like that. Um, wow, we got so many people. I've got to take a pee break, guys. Harry, talk about
Yeah.
something for a couple minutes.
Okay.
Talk for several minutes and I'll be back.
Do what you got to do. Uh, I've had several things happen to me out here. I've been, I've seen shadows. My brother-in-law, he saw a, he saw my doppelganger. I was in the bedroom. He was in the kitchen, and he said I came from the other direction in the hallway. I live in a mobile home, so there's not much area to hide in. But I was in my bedroom. He said I was coming down from the back hallway, and then all of a sudden I came out of from the other side. He goes, "I thought you were, I thought you were down there." No, I just got out of, just coming out of the bedroom. So it's. I don't know what to say about it. I've never seen my own, but other people have seen me in this house when I'm in another room. I've had somebody whisper my name into my ear. I've been touched. Felt like somebody run two fingers up the bottom of my foot, laying in bed. Come to find out, that's how my wife's mom would wake them up when they were kids. This was after she passed, so I'm assuming that was her. But
Are you entertaining?
yeah, I think so. Or at least I hope so.
Awesome. What did you think about that? The stuff that he was talking about with Bigfoot, wasn't that crazy and
Yeah.
awesome?
Yes. I
Yeah.
want to see one, but yet I'm afraid to see one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Let's see. I believe Avery was next.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, hello, welcome.
Hey, I'll just preface this with I used to not believe in like any of this until I used to think that, everything had a logical explanation. But I live in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and I am a performer up here, and I work at a haunted attraction called Arx Mortis. And it's not a real haunted house. Like, it's just a bunch of actors, animatronics, all that stuff. But ever since I joined, there's been like a weird history behind it. There's been a few unalivings on the property. Some weird stuff happened in the woods. And the town that it's in is called Killen, Alabama, which, if you look it up online, it earned its name for a very bad reason that I won't state here, for back in the Civil War. But so I've worked there for about 4 years now. And when you're in a place where there's a bunch of, animatronics and, weird lights going off, you'd expect to see things if you're in there for hours. Like, your mind playing tricks on you. And one night, I decided to just stay in one spot and hang out there and scare whatever groups come through. And, I was the only one in that section because we're typically all spread out. And, I'm just hanging out in a corner, chilling, waiting for, there was I believe it was about an 8-person group coming through. And something had happened while they were rounding the corner, and I caught a look of it, and it looked like a person but moved like a dog. And that's honestly the only explanation I have for that. And I thought at first, okay, this is just my mind playing tricks on me. It's I've just been in here way too long. And I radioed another actor, just being like, hey, are you in this area? Is anyone in this area? And people came to, check on me and, just make sure, everything's good. And no one's in the area. And the reason that I don't have an explanation for it wasn't my mind playing tricks on me was whatever it was scared the group that was coming through. And immediately after that group exited the house, I went to our security booth and I pulled up the footage for that area. And we have a small little clip of something rushing up against a wall and that 8-person group freaking out. And it freaked me out too. There's been a lot of weird stuff happen on that property, and it made a believer out of me.
Do you have access to the clip?
I can probably have it downloaded. We have an event this coming weekend, and I can go into the security booth and see if I can download it to my laptop. But it's one of those. So we're opening our haunt during the summer, and we are going to, allow people to come through 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. and no animatronics are on. It's, the workhouse lights, so no special lighting or anything like that. But, we just guide people through and talk about some of the awful stuff that's happened on that property. And I'm not the only actor that has experienced weird stuff that has happened there. There's a lot to it. I think you might be muted.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm having some technical difficulties. Yeah, so it kind of sounds like Dogman. That was my first thought when you said that it was like a dog person type thing. Have you ever heard of the legend of Dogman by any chance?
I haven't. But, there's been some parts of our establishment that we have had to close down and reroute because stuff has been happening to patrons.
Oh, Harry, I think we have some feedback on your end.
Okay.
Yeah, so Dogman is it's the belief in Dogman is that it's kind of like Bigfoot. It's a cryptid creature, but it's basically, for lack of a better way of putting it, it's a werewolf. It sounds absolutely ridiculous, but there are so many people who don't really have any interest in the paranormal or cryptozoology who I personally have talked to who say, I saw this thing, it's definitely real. I don't know how I feel about Dogman, but I know there are a lot of people say that they've seen it, and that's kind of what it sounds like you may have encountered. So
Yeah, I never want to see it again, I can tell you that.
yeah, I think that's the general consensus. When people see it, they don't ever want to see it again.
There's a lot of people, like, I'm not up to date on any of the lingo or anything, but the most stuff we get from, like, guest actors from around the U.S. that come to perform with us is that they see something called shadow people. And it's in very specific places, and it's really scary stuff that I used to really not believe in, and I still try not to believe in it, but that made me question a lot.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't believe in until I saw it. And then, yeah, it's kind of hard to deny that it exists once you've experienced it.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. But yeah, that's about all I have. You've got a good platform on here. I enjoy hearing.
Well, thank you.
Stuff.
I appreciate that. And thank you very much for coming up and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good night.
You too. And also, I want to see that clip. I've got to see that clip. Send me a message with a link to that clip or something. Harry, have you seen a Dog Man?
Uh, no, I haven't.
No dog
Uh,
man for you?
no, like I said before, I've been followed in the woods by something. What it was, I have no clue. But other than that, I've never seen a dog man or a
Yeah.
werewolf.
Yeah, see, that's what really kills me about Dogman is like a werewolf, like the movies that I watched in the 80s as a kid, really a werewolf, but tons of people see this thing. So it's kind of hard to deny that it
Yeah.
exists. And I saw something pretty weird that time. We were talking about it at the beginning of the stream. We ran over it in a Mustang with all four tires, and it lived to creep another day, to live, laugh, lurk another
Hmm.
day. So I don't know. Maybe they're
Yeah.
out there. Oh wow, we got a ton of people
Yeah.
left. I don't know who was next. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna pick one. Hello and welcome.
Hi. So, do you guys want a cryptid story, an extraterrestrial story, or a paranormal story?
We want all three, but I would like the alien story first.
Okay. So this isn't my story. This is my sister-in-law's story. So I live in Southern California, and we live in the desert. And where we're from, all of like the 4th, 5th grade students, I think back when she did it, she was in middle school. But every year they go on like a field trip out to someplace called Pathfinder Ranch, and they do like camping and hiking and fishing and all of the camp stuff. Well, they were on a hike and they were in 2 groups. So the boys were up on the mountain, the girls were on at the bottom of the mountain. And this is in broad daylight. And all of a sudden, there's this silver, like, discus giant ship that comes and hovers over the girls. And it's like, phew, but it made no noise. There were lights on the outside. And all of the boys on the mountain saw it. They started freaking out. They start running down the mountain. And whatever it was, this giant flying discus, started flashing extremely bright flashes, almost like a camera flash. And then it zoomed off, never to be seen again. Now, all of these children, these middle school children, are freaking out. All of the camp counselors had to call parents and come and pick up their kids. And afterwards, like, they were told not to tell anybody. Before they even were called parents, they had all of the kids got together. They had this, I don't know if it's like a governmental agency or someone, like an agency of some sort, came and was like, you will not talk about this to anybody. This is private, confidential information. We will know, basically, if you tell anybody. And in the following weeks, months, even gone into years, the groups that were there would have people that were dressed similarly in cars outside of schools watching them for years. And it stopped about the time of graduation, I believe, if I remember correctly. But yeah.
That is definitely strange.
Yeah.
Very weird.
And
You said you had like paranormal as well?
yeah, so I used to live in Savannah, Georgia, and I don't know if you guys know anything about that area, but it is allegedly very haunted.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I lived in a semi-new development. I would say that it was built probably in 2006, and this was 2013. So the house wasn't very old. And that land used to be just a wooded area. And, you know, the Civil War, I don't even want to get into that, but a lot of bad things happened there, to say the least. And there was one day, there was like a leak coming from our ceiling, and we lived in a 2-story home, but there was this like giant ring on our ceiling, and it was right underneath where like the crawl space for the attic is. And I decided that we needed to go up there and look. And so I went up the stairs, and it was me, my partner at the time, my old roommate, and his girlfriend. And I opened up the stairs or not the stairs, but there's like a latch, and it had a ladder that would come down, and just a wooden ladder. You climb up the stairs, and there's a light switch on the wall. And we tried turning on the light wouldn't come on, the light wouldn't come on, the light wouldn't come on. We left it flipped on, and we all went up into the attic. And when my roommate's feet hit the very top step in the attic, the light turned on. And he was like, nope, I'm leaving. We could not find the source of this leak in our ceiling at all. So we all decided to go back downstairs. Patrick was freaked out. Yes, that's his real name. No, I'm not changing it for his sake. But he was freaked out. And I went to go into my bedroom and kind of get stuff to cleanse the house because he just felt weird. But I went to climb onto my bed to grab one of my books. And my bed was a platform bed, and it was on risers, so it was pretty high. I had to use both of my hands and one of my knees to like hoist myself up enough to get onto the bed. And something grabbed my ankle with enough force to pull me down onto the floor.
So you had a monster under your bed.
I wouldn't say it was a monster, because when I fell down there was nothing there.
Yeah.
But it grabbed my ankle. And I honestly would say that there were other things that had happened in the house that were just really weird. We all kind of saw some black figure standing around my roommate's girlfriend's children. Like it was really weird. So like I wanted to get rid of whatever it was, and in the process of trying to get my stuff together to get rid of it, it grabbed me.
Wow. That's I don't think I'd like that very much myself.
Yeah, no, I was definitely shaken up. But it never bothered us after that. And the ring on the ceiling mysteriously disappeared. Like it just went away.
Well, that is peculiar. Did you say that you knew any history of the place? Like, was there any bad history?
So, like, not definitively, but in Savannah, especially the area that we were in, it was a lot of used to be battlegrounds in the Civil War. A lot of, and there was also, if I'm not mistaken, it was the French that landed in that area of Georgia, and they had built a fort out there. And they obviously had a lot of fighting. You can still find like old cannonballs in certain parts of Savannah. So who knows what happened there? Maybe a lot. Probably a lot. But yeah.
Definitely very spooky. Thought we had a question, and yeah. So, did you have another one? Did you say, or was that it?
So I actually have quite a few.
Okay.
My favorite is probably my Jersey Devil story. So that's kind of a cryptid. So this creature, I was driving my best friend home, and there were two hills. One is extremely steep and comes around a corner to go onto her street, and the other one is a steep but not as steep hill. And I decided that day that I was just going to take the back way because it was quicker to get to her house that way from mine. So I went up the really steep hill and came around the corner. And it's a very short distance, but it's a very high elevation from like where you start to where you end. So you really have to hit the gas going up this hill. Well, I was coming around the corner, and you can't see anything when you first come up the hill. And it goes immediately into a turn. But I had to slam on my brakes because this giant flying creature that had like bat wings. I actually had a friend of mine draw what I saw. I'll show you. So this is what I saw in front of my vehicle. And its wingspan was like farther than my window to like windshield to windshield. But this thing stopped. It looked at us and went whoof, whoof. You could hear the wind come off of its wings, and then it just flew away. No, it's not a ram. It was flying.
I saw that. That's a ram.
Not a
No,
ram.
it has wings.
It had wings, and it had like legs that you would associate with a bird of prey, but furry. It did not have feathers. Its wings did not have hair.
That's really strange.
So, yeah, that's the Jersey Devil, and it flew fast. Welp, it's not the Mothman. You're damn right. It was not the Mothman.
We're always on the lookout for a Mothman story here.
It kind of had like the body of a bat. It had the wings of a bat, but like the body of like a bull or a cow. And the head was almost kind of horse shape, but its snout was shorter and more boxy. Jersey Devil, yeah. And that was in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania.
Someone said a large bat. How big would you say this thing was, like in comparison to another animal?
This thing's wingspan was longer than my car was wide. So, like, if you look at the front of your car from like where the headlights are, it was longer than my passenger side to my driver's side in wingspan.
So it was over 5 feet wide.
Yeah. That thing would eat a human. That thing was huge.
Yeah.
And like, I literally had to walk my best friend to the door because she was so shaken up over what we saw.
Yeah, that definitely scared
The
the crap
Jersey
out of
Devil definitely does have wings. Look it up.
Yeah, Jersey Devil has wings. Yeah, it definitely does. And some reports of the chupacabra, it also had wings. So, and a lot of times they are considered to be maybe possibly one and the same. So,
Well, no. So I live in Southern California. I live about 2 hours if you were to go straight instead of over a mountain from the border of Mexico, and we have chupacabras here. And those things look more like dogs. They definitely don't have wings.
Yeah. I'm still laughing about the ram. Yeah, so there are a lot of cryptids that kind of fit into that category of, possibly chupacabra, possibly this, that, whatever. I forget there's another one Um, oh, what is it? There's another one that's very similar, but yeah, I don't know. So you don't think it could have been any type of like weird bird or
No.
anything? No chance of that.
Mm-mm.
Like an albatross?
I
I
saw
always
this
wonder, like,
thing.
is it an
No.
albatross?
This thing did not have a beak in any way, shape, or form. It had a snout. It had a snout and it had wings, and its nostrils were so bizarrely shaped.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty terrifying.
That thing was terrifying. I ran back to my car, and because the way that I had to park, I parked on like the left side of her house. So I crawled into my driver's seat from my passenger seat because I was so terrified it was going to eat me.
Yeah, I wouldn't get out either, because it's probably hiding under the car waiting. Wow, it's pretty terrifying. It's not every day we get winged cryptid stories in here, but that's pretty interesting.
I would not have believed it if I did not see it myself. I would
Yeah,
have said,
yeah,
nah.
yeah, absolutely. I know what you mean. It's hard to believe these things until you experience it firsthand, and then it's like, what did I see? Oh my God. Um, just trying to see if there's any more questions or anything about it. Well, that is pretty spooky and interesting, and I appreciate you coming up and sharing that with us. And I hope you never see that thing again, whatever it was.
I hope to never, ever, ever see that ever again.
Yeah.
Because it was probably one of the scariest moments in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming up and telling us about that.
Yeah, no problem. I'd love to come up again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, definitely come back. Try to get a couple more people. It's getting late, guys. I'm gonna try to get a couple more, but we may have to cut it short tonight. But I'll probably be back tomorrow night. So if we don't get to you tonight, I promise we'll get you tomorrow. I might try to go early tomorrow onto a live so that we can get some more people. Who was next? The next person dropped out, so now I'm confused. All right, let's go from the top then. Okay. Yeah, it's getting late. We're gonna have to call it soon, but hello, Demon. Welcome.
Hello from the graveyard and the Howl and Growl Paranormal Investigations.
Spooky. You got a ghost story for us?
Well, more a demonic entity that tried to hurt my brother, in a sense. But, excuse me, let me take a drink of something real quick here.
Alrighty.
Sorry. There we go. Much better. Now, after my graduation, my brother and I lived together in a small apartment studio. And, not knowing what was, going to be ahead of us for that time, but we didn't know any much of the history of the place either. Now, the thing is, my brother was laying on the couch in front of the island that separated, the living room and the kitchen. I was laying right in front, close by the front door. Now, the thing is, I was having trouble sleeping, tossing and turning, like something was keeping me awake. I couldn't fall asleep, I thought it was just plain insomnia. Until I did the last, toss and turn, I noticed a black spiral forming close to my brother. And all of a sudden I see these two red eyes popping out of it and started to do like a growl of some sort that was not really humane or even human at all. And the thing is, while it was starting to get bigger and bigger, my brother started to glow like this golden aura. And like it got so bright you could probably see it outside the apartment, and basically it was shining right through. Now when he was doing this, all of a sudden I see this spiral that was forming with the two red eyes. It did like a blood curdling demonic scream, and I was just like, oh wow. I was paralyzed with fear this whole time, but I've watched this whole thing happening. And as he was doing it, it disappeared. The next morning, I told my brother about this. He was like, no way. And from what I've done my research, the reason why he was glowing like that, it was our ancestors protecting him from being attacked.
So glowing, like
basically, it's like, how do I explain this? If you saw like something shining off of him, it was just coming off pretty, bright.
Was it kind of like in Touched by an Angel when Monica would tell everybody that God sent her, and so then like this halo light would appear above
Something
her
like
head?
that, yeah. Yes. But it was just covering his whole body.
Are you being for real right now?
I'm not joking. This is serious. But he was actually glowing with this golden glow that I had never seen before.
Well, yeah, okay. That is unique and different. And Harry, anything?
I've never seen anything like that, but I've heard of. My nephews told me stories about that where he had something happen similar to that, where he had like a glow around him to protect him. I don't know if he was dreaming it or if it actually happened. He didn't really go into detail about it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of Chernobyl footage, but now I've never seen anybody glow. So
Yeah.
that's a new one on me.
Hey, anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean, paranormal is just a huge spectrum of different things.
Very, very true.
All right, well, cool story. Thanks for coming up. We're gonna move on to the next guest, but I appreciate you. Have a good night. I don't even know what just happened. All right, we're gonna do one more, guys, and then we're gonna call it for the night because it's getting late. You still good, Harry, or
Yeah,
do you need to
I'm
go?
still
Okay.
sunset right here with you. I'm not leaving now.
Alrighty. The next person, I think, so many people have dropped out. I think this one was next. Hello and welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right, thanks. Oh, my mind just went blank.
I love when that happens.
It's me. I was doing the dishes for a moment, and yeah, no, skip me and go to the next person because it's probably going to take me 5 minutes to get my brain back together. So sorry about that.
No,
Super sorry.
No problem. That's fine. I saw somebody in the comments said they got skipped. You did not get skipped, but I will try to find you right now. Hot sauce. Hello and welcome.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. I was in here for maybe like a week and a half ago or whatever, but I was just got sick and everything, and I didn't want to wake up the whole household or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a couple stories, and I'm gonna tell one, and it's kind of, I'm not gonna lie, it's not for like the like-minded. So I'm a military veteran, Air Force veteran, right?
Thank you for your service.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you, Harry. Do appreciate it. Thank you. But so me and my brother, we were roommates, right? And we always partied together, did everything together, had a condo, lakeside condo, and everything like that, right? And just having good times, right? And eventually, after a matter of time, we found out that our place, our lakeside condo, was next to tribal territory. And we didn't even know that, right? So we would hang out, party together, have all the girls over and everything like that. And then he ended up eventually meeting a girl that he ended up marrying, which is his current wife. And eventually, after about a month and a half, then, because I had a little Chiweenie dog, and we already know that the animals can see what's not there. They'll sit there and they'll bark at the corner, and they know if something's there that's not supposed to be there. And I would come home from time to time, and this was after my brother was seeing her for about like a week, after probably about a month to month and a half, probably, I would say that. And I would come home, and I'd be sitting there, and we'd sitting in the living room, and he would just be sitting there, and he would just be like looking at that corner and just be barking and barking and barking. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't right. And you get that, that hair on the back of your neck, knowing, yeah, something's there, something shouldn't be there, right? And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay. He's just sitting there, he's barking at nothing, and like whatever, and taking for walks and everything like that, and they come back in and go back. And then eventually it got to the point of I was working so much, I couldn't take care of the dog any longer. So I no longer had the dog to give me the awareness of there's something there when I'm coming home. If that makes sense. So I had to get rid of the dog because I worked too far away. I couldn't take him out to go to, go to the bathroom and whatnot. So I would come home, and it would just be me by myself, even though it was me and my brother as roommates, right? And eventually it accumulated to the point where at one point I came home, and let me just give you the architecture. So you walk into the apartment. It's a condo, right? Lakeside condo, right next to the lake. So you walk into the front door. Right side is the living room. Left side is the kitchen. Left side is where my brother's room is. And you go a little bit forward, and on the right side is a little small patio where you can see the lake. And you keep going back forward, and there's two other bedrooms. Mine's in the far back, and my excuse me, my now nephew is on the far right next to mine, right? So what I learned is that dog was warning me for something. And that thing, whatever my dog was warning me, and I had to get rid of it just because I didn't have the time to take care of it because I worked so far away. But the dog was telling me something. And it was telling me something. There's something there, right? So think about this. I gave you the architecture, right? My room is in the far back, right?
I'm gonna interrupt you real
so
quick.
in the kitchen,
Everybody in the comments is kind of wanting you to land the plane.
Yeah, I
did you have paranormal activity?
I am right now. So in the very beginning, in the kitchen, right? Like I said, that's why I'm trying to explain the situation. In the very beginning, it's the kitchen, then it's the room, boom, 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 right? You wake up and you look over and you have a freaking shadow figure sitting there right in the middle of the freaking kitchen between you and you just getting out of the fucking apartment. It's like it was waiting for you to be by yourself because your brother and nobody else is there. It was singling you out.
So it was a shadow person.
Yes. And there was no way for that shadow to even be there. It was you either sit there and you put your freaking blanket over your freaking damn head in your freaking room, or you try to get out of there, but you can't get out of there because it's between you and that door. That was the scariest fucking thing I've ever had in my freaking life. I'm a freaking military veteran. I'm an Air Force veteran. And that was that brought like in, but like I said, it was right next to Indian grounds.
Alrighty, well, thank you for coming up. I definitely appreciate your time. Definitely appreciate you sharing your story. I do not like to be talked over. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit offended right now. Sorry about that, guys. I think we're going to end it for the night. I'm pretty tired. How about you, Harry?
Sorry, I was muted.
I know you've got so much static. I keep like tapping on your. It's fine. I just muted you while we were listening to. Yeah.
I think I had my finger resting up against the jack, so I think that's because I'm holding my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably what's causing the static.
Yeah, no problem.
Still there?
It is, but it's okay. I think we're going to call it for the night. It's been really fun, though. I hope you all will come back tomorrow. I will be on probably, I might try to get on a little bit early, but definitely somewhere around 11. So, Harry, if you want to pop in and join us, you're more than welcome to. If you're busy, don't worry about it. It's perfectly fine. But hopefully I know, I'm sorry guys. I know I'm just so tired. I've got to get to bed. But yeah, you guys definitely tune in tomorrow. Make sure you go turn on post notifications so you know when I go live, and show Harry some love. I saw some people send him some roses and stuff, and that's awesome. Thank you all for doing that. Harry is a wonderful co-pilot. But you guys have a good night, and we will see you tomorrow.
Yeah, have a good night.